to let the colors run. I just need air to breathe, 'cause I feel the weight but down on me. I know it's hard, but we can make
Welcome to the Razor Podcast. My name is Sam Diamond, and that song was Foyne's Stand Alone featuring Henry Green. He's absolutely killing it. My boy Foynesy, good work, brother. Everyone check him out, please, on Instagram, Facebook, SoundCloud, all that stuff. That song is available on iTunes and also for free at Triple J Unearthed. So give him a review or rating, and that would be sick. I'm going to play that whole song at the end of this episode, so I hope you enjoy it. Today's guest is Chris Manak. This is episode 17 of the Razor Podcast now, so going strong, baby. Chris Manak is a dating coach, and some call him a love guru. He's been on the podcast before, and it was an incredibly popular episode. I was sort of blown away, and I think people find Chris very interesting in the stuff that he has to talk about and the insights that he can provide into dating and relationships, men and women. So it's very interesting, and I hope you guys like it. If you do like it, please give me a quick review or rating on iTunes. We're back on iTunes, so Razor Podcast going strong, baby. I hope you enjoy it, and without any further ado, please welcome Chris Manak to the Razor Podcast. Chris Manak, welcome back to the Razor Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me back. How are you?
Good, thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to have you back because, as I was saying to you before, the podcast that I did with you was actually the most listened to, streamed and download of all my podcasts.
Okay.
And I know I'm not the most popular podcast in the world, but I've had...
Don't sell yourself too short.
Yeah, I had some good guests. I've had Julian Burnside and a few other interesting people. But
Nice. I smoked them all.
You absolutely smoked them all. Why do you think that is?
People are probably interested in the topic, I guess, because it's one of those areas that we all are curious about, we all want to do better in, but no one really addresses.
Yeah.
So I think anytime it kind of comes up, why do you think Cosmo and Cleo sell like they do? Sorry. I think that's why.
People are interested in dating and relationships more.
Yeah.
I think women as well, particularly.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
That's certainly a thing that sort of popped up. And those were the girls who... I mean, my girlfriends, like I told you, were more
Did you say
interested.
girlfriends plural then?
Girlfriends.
Okay,
friends,
right. Friends that are females.
Yeah. Friend-zoned females. So that's been... that was really interesting. And I've listened to that one actually a few times myself. And I found it absolutely fascinating. Between then and now, you sort of... your business has been going really well. And in fact, I've seen you on a lot of mainstream media over the last few months.
Yeah.
How's that
Weird,
sort of...
right?
how's that sort of happen?
It's bizarre. Someone asked me about this today. They asked me how, all that unfolded. And it really, I've done interviews and stuff over the years, sometimes big ones, Triple J one here and there, SBS, ABC, all that sort of stuff. But I did one little interview with the Financial Review. And then what happened was the Daily Mail read that, so then they called me. And then someone else read that, and then they called me. And then the Today Show saw that, and then they called me. And it sort of kind of just escalated one from another. And it just kind of goes to show how much the media feeds off each other. And most of it was awesome. Like, most of it was, great. There was also some, very questionable ones as well. They're like, when we were speaking to Manak, I'm like, I don't even know who you were. I haven't spoken to you. Yeah. But I found myself on... weird things. There was one, I think it was like communisttoday.com or something like that, featured on there, and even they were saying and I was like, I haven't spoken to you. Like you both hate my profession and the fact that I'm a capitalist, so it's a lose-lose situation here. But for the most part, it's really good. So yeah, good ego lesson as well. Yeah. Being, like, having to step back from that, both the good and bad, and just not get involved. It was because anytime, I guess I don't shy away from a bit of a battle of words. So it was quite a good lesson to have to step back from that. And people messaged me going, one guy said, "Dude, you're going viral as fuck." And I was like, I don't want to know. I've just got to focus on what I'm doing. Let that happen on the side. So it's funny, all that stuff I probably read 2 or 3 of the articles.
Yeah.
So,
and it's probably saying quite a similar thing as well. I mean, I remember the Australian Financial Review one. That was one that said corporate financier quits to become dating coach or something along those lines.
Yeah. That was pretty good.
And they're spinning it in a business way as well.
That's when they first called. I was just so curious as to why. Like, why does the Australian Financial Review? The lady was sweet. That was one of the best interviews I did. She was a real sweetheart. We chatted for like an hour, and she was just. It seemed as though she was as legitimately interested in it as she was, as much as she needed a story.
Yeah.
So we chatted for like probably over an hour.
Yeah.
So that one wasn't too bad at all.
She would have been interested in it for sure. All girls are interested in it.
Mostly, yes, for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other reason I wanted to talk to you today is we'll come back to the dating stuff as well.
Sure.
Was that I follow you as well and I'm friends with you on Facebook and stuff, and saw that you put up a blog about a week or two ago, and that blog was a reflection on a ayahuasca ceremony which you did.
Yep.
I found it absolutely fascinating, and it's something that I really want to do, not to get loose and have fun.
Yeah.
But as
you don't have that choice.
Yeah. As a deep, spiritual, introspective view of my life and what I'm doing and where I'm going.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that experience. How did you find, I mean, obviously this is something that's illegal.
Yeah.
So
it's very hush.
It's very hush.
Yeah. Well, basically I had, the way that I managed to get an invite was I had someone that I know had mentioned it to me probably a couple of years ago, and I kind of thought, that's interesting. Maybe one day I'll just I'll get to it, but I didn't really. Sorry, just move that.
Oh, that's all right.
And then he hit me up a couple of weeks ago and said, look, dude, let's do this. So okay, fine. So that's how I got involved. It's a very, given the status of it, it is illegal. So
should it be illegal?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's kind of, there are, I guess, a couple of circles throughout Australia, but they are very hush. You need an invite, you need to get approval, all this sort of stuff. So I got it through him, and that's how I got involved in it. Most people tend to do it in South America, Peru or Ecuador.
Yeah, that's something that I'd like to explore. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's definitely on the cards for me this year.
To go actually to Peru and do it with a shaman. Yeah. That's sort of the issue that a lot of people have. It's that you have to find the right shaman to guide you through it, because it's a massive tourist business over there now.
Yeah, it is.
And it's important that you want to find the right one. but so talk me through when you got there, what the place was like and what the people were like where you did it.
Yeah, sure. Well, it was basically like my housemate was saying to me, it's going to be tents and bloody hillbillies and shit. When I rocked up, it was this beautiful place. It was like in the middle of the bush. You wouldn't find it even if you went looking for it, really. And it's a retreat, I guess, with huts and a big ceremony room and a big kitchen and all this. And the first thing I noticed was how normal the people were.
Yeah. What did you expect? Maybe some hippies or?
I expected. Well, actually, no. The first person that I saw was well hippie,
yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting, because I'm not adverse to that at all. I guess I'm very, I don't know, well, not that, I guess. But then when I met the other people, I was really surprised to find a lot of guys in their 30s, corporate guys from Melbourne, from the city, had travelled all this way to get there as well, and just really cool people. Like, I've since caught up with them and we've just hung out. They're really, really cool guys. And it just varied. There were people in their 40s, 50s, kind of, a few kind of hippie-ish people, definitely, but some straight-laced people, a lot of straight-laced people, probably for the most part. And I met the guy, the shaman, the guy running the show, and he had a lovely energy straight away, very lovely, nice guy, very talented dude. He was trained in Peru, plays multiple instruments amazingly, amazing singer, and yeah, very, very cool guy. So I guess I didn't know what to expect going into it, but I felt very comfortable and very at home right away, which was nice.
Yeah.
It was in a very sort of homely place, I guess, not sort of shanty-ish at all. It was actually quite well established and really interesting. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you get there on the first day.
Yep.
You meet the people.
Yep.
Do you drink and have a ceremony that night?
Yeah. So we rocked up late afternoon, sort of 6-ish, and excuse my sniffles. And then we drank at about 8:30, I think. So you've definitely got some chill out time. So when it's funny, I was told you have to wear all white. So when I rocked up, I'm in white, and then I rock up and there's another 30 people and no one's in white. I'm like, what is this? Like, did you guys not get, what the hell is this? Like one of the, when people say like, come to the party, it's fancy dress, and you rock up and you're like, I've been stooged here. So I thought, what the fuck's going on here? But then I didn't realize that those couple of hours were just put aside to get to know people, have a chat, drink some tea. And that's when everyone sort of got changed. They went to the little huts and got changed and came back. Had some tea, had some chat. Because you're fasting, you're not allowed to eat from lunchtime that day.
Right.
And even a week going into it, you have to eat very specifically and very blandly. Basically, I was living off, organic chicken, rice, and peas and corn. And
Shredding
stuff like
for
that.
the ceremony.
Well, you got to like...
Yeah, it's about cleansing your body, isn't it?
Yeah, and
because
I mean, there is a bit of science behind certain things. I think is it tryptophan or something may react with it, so you can't have certain foods because of that.
Yep.
But then there are other things that have like a spiritual element. Someone was telling me that spiritually garlic isn't great. So you can't have garlic or onion or anything. So basically, no salt,
especially if
no
you're
sugar.
a vampire too. So
Well, yeah, which I am. I live by the night and hate the day.
You do, yeah.
So very blandly. But what's weird was at the end of the week, I was really enjoying that food. I was sitting down to I'd just be frying rice, no oil, no salt, nothing, frying rice with peas and corn. At the end of the week, I'm like, this is actually pretty tasty. It's weird, your taste buds kind of come back because I'm so used to smothering things in sweet chili sauce and putting salt and pepper on things. And so by the time you're rocked up, I'm fucking starving by this point because I eat quite a fair bit, wolfing down, hammering tea and stuff. And then sort of everyone prepares, and then we go into this massive, beautiful ceremony room and just sort of chill out. So there are beds, not beds even, just kind of like cushions everywhere, and you take down a sleeping bag, a sleeping mask, all that sort of stuff, and everyone's just chilling out in this big room. And then there's a whole ceremony around it as well. You get smudged, where they kind of smoke you out and with sage and all this, and like it's not kind of you rock up and drink this stuff. There's a whole ceremony around it. The ceremony itself probably takes 30-40 minutes. He's got to bless the room. When you do go to drink, you're kneeling before him, and he's not just dishing out ayahuasca. He's looking at you. He's looking into your eyes to figure out like what you might need, and
right.
It's super interesting. And I really like that as well because, much like you, I've never taken drugs to get loaded and have maybe a few nights in clubs or whatever, drop pills and run crazy or whatever. But for the most part, I was always just experimenting and seeing like what I could find in my own head and what perspectives I could find on life. So that's why I was going into this, and that's what I really liked about it. It was very, very spiritual and not a bunch of people wanting to get fucked up. But it's not something that you're doing for a good time. I will assure you of that.
You're going to confront some demons maybe.
Oh, well, the first thing you're going to do is puke your guts up.
Yeah.
And then, actually, the first night I didn't, because the first night that you do it, and everyone said this to me going in, they all said, your first night's going to be very, very tame. And me being me, I'm like, fuck that.
Yeah.
So I'm smashing it like, no. So the guy at the end's kind of going, are you sure you want this third one? But I went for it, and in the end, I just kind of surrendered to it. Went, I'm kind of buzzy. It's nice. I might just go lay and look at some stars. Or I was even texting people or whatever. But then the second night, boom. Within probably 20 minutes, I'm vomiting, and not just like everyone in the room. But it's weird. That's the thing that puts off a lot of people, and it certainly put me off as well. Mm-hmm. But it's not kind of I feel sick, I'm going to spew. At least for me, it was. I had all this sort of stuff building up in my body, and you can feel it. You can feel it kind of building up, and then it just kind of reaches here, and then it's just you just chuck. So they call it a purge.
So purging's like if you purge, you get rid of all the. Yeah, you can purge all the old clothes in your cupboard. You're just getting rid of.
It's getting rid of stuff. Yeah,
okay.
Definitely.
So
and you purge multiple ways. It's not just vomiting. You to get graphic. You may really have to run off and take a shit in the bathroom,
Yeah.
which a lot of people did. A lot of crying, which they say is purging as well.
Yep. One of my mates did ayahuasca in, I think it was Peru, and he came in his pants.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not joking.
Interesting.
I'm not joking. And there was something weird. I'm not going to do... it was one of my friends who's been on this podcast. But he did... There was something weird going on, and I won't do justice to the story by telling it, but I'll try. There was a lady in the room as well who felt that the shaman was giving her an orgasm. And as that happened, that was around the time that he came in his pants.
Jesus.
So there's this weird stuff going on, like,
and I think that's what a lot of people have to be careful of. I'm a novice. I've done this twice. I don't, but I think in Peru they're having that issue at the moment where you've got these genuine people and tribes who have done it for literally thousands of years, but then you've got these kind of newcomers popping up going, oh, I can make money, and I can also, because a lot of girls do this, so you get all these pretty English and Australian and American travelers or whatever who rock up, backpackers, and so I think they're having that issue as well. So
So coming back to this, so talk me through the why do you think that it didn't affect you as much the first night?
I have no idea. I asked a few people, a few experienced people, and they said, because they refer to it as the mother, so they always refer to ayahuasca as a she.
Yeah.
And they were saying to me, the first night you're just meeting her. And because I'm so science-based, I'm very, objective, this happens because of this, whatever. So people were talking about this, I'm like, okay, that's a bit odd, whatever. You take something, it floods your brain with DMT, you get fucked up, whatever. But they're like, no, the first night you're meeting the mother, you're just meeting her. So I don't know. And what's interesting is the second night I was chatting to this girl who came with her boyfriend. It was her first night. And what I found interesting was the second night for me was crazily intense, like massively intense. And
was this with your eyes, sorry to cut you off here.
That's all right.
When you mean intense, do you mean just the overall experience or the sort of visuals and the whole?
Different for everyone.
Sure.
For me, it was a bit of everything. Mostly just, I had my eye mask on the whole time, just because I'd kind of peek out from under it sometimes and just go, no, that's too much. Just put it back down. So for mostly the thoughts, a lot of people have visuals, and things are very almost like a little LSD-ish, but it is very, very different. So just intense, which I'll cover in a minute. But this girl, she was this little, I think she was German or something. She was quite small. And the next morning, so you gather around the next morning and talk about your experience. And this girl was kind of going, it was all right, and I'm like, you're half the size of me. So it just really does go to show that first time, if someone listening to this now will go, my first time will be fine, and then they'll just
and they'll get blasted.
But, I'm 6'2" and I'm not a small dude, and one cup sent me for 6, and this girl, she was like, it was all right.
But does you're saying at the start, the shaman sort of looks at you and sort of is it
sure.
sort of like what's the guy who puts people into sleep or whatever?
Hypnotist.
Hypnotist, how they sort of look at people and they go, you go over here. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Are they looking
sure.
at you and going, and then they'll give you just a milder dose, or
could be potentially. But I know the second night I was talking to this shaman, and he was saying because the second night I had 2, but I had the second cup much later, and I went to sit back in front of him. Because the first night I was there I've had 3, and I was still the guy rocking up going, can we go 4, whatever? And he's just like, no, dude.
calm down here.
Calm down, settle down. He said it reaches a point where it's like more is not more. It reaches a point where it's, that's your little journey for the night. The second night when I sat down, probably, 2 hours later for my second one, I sat on my little cushion in front of him, and he just smiled at me, and he said, I told you, when she kicks, she kicks. Like he just saw her straight away. He didn't even need to ask. And then he was kind of like looking into my eyes and stuff. So I think they do delegate it out. But what he said, what I found interesting was, he said, see, I told you, this is the same stuff as last night. So my immediate thought was, it's a different concoction that you've made tonight to last night. He's like, it's the same. So, it's interesting. But the amounts that you're talking like a shot glass, less than a shot glass. So...
How does it taste?
Do you know what? I heard it tasted absolutely horrific. So I expected to go in and just have shit in my mouth, basically. Not that bad at all.
Sure.
Look, it's not a pleasant taste, of course. It's kind of like bitter, dirty water. But what they did, they actually had some lemon and some ginger and some things you could kind of chase it with to kind of soothe it a little bit. But if you look on YouTube, all these people going, "Oh, it's the worst, absolute worst tasting thing," and I was like, "It's not that bad."
Yeah. Have you ever done DMT?
I have. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've done DMT as well.
Yeah.
And it's a scary moment, the moment before you light that pipe.
Yeah.
You sit back and you know that, for the listeners out there, DMT is the main ingredient in ayahuasca. But when you smoke it in form of what's called changa, I guess.
Yep. Or pure DMT, like the powder form.
Yeah. It absolutely blasts you. I mean, mushrooms and acid is one thing.
Nothing compares.
But it's not even a 20th of DMT. It's extremely visual.
Extremely visual. And they're the visuals you get with ayahuasca as well. But with DMT, I only did DMT twice, and I actually didn't like it. Yeah, and I can handle, growing up in Newcastle, and I'm, whatever. I just put it in front of me. I'm like, I'll take it. I don't care. Like, whatever. So I always had a reasonable tolerance for stuff. But DMT I did twice, and I was just like, what I didn't like about it was it lasts 10 minutes, and then you are bang completely back, completely sober within 10, 15 minutes. And I'm like, I couldn't get anything. I'd sit down I'd try DMT and go, okay, these are the things I want to ponder in my life and perhaps get some insight into. But DMT, you smoke it and then good night, son.
Very intense.
You're 10 minutes, you're out, and all you are seeing is geometric patterns everywhere.
Colours, lights. Did you see the light on?
Yeah. And so what ayahuasca is, it's because DMT is in most things. It's in fucking grass.
In all living things, apparently.
Yeah. But if we were to go out and eat grass now, your body would destroy it very quickly. It'd process it very quickly because we have it's like an enzyme in our stomach that just neutralizes it. Yep. So basically the ayahuasca vine turns off that enzyme. So when you drink it, it doesn't get processed. So, it can go through and basically flood your brain with DMT, which is, I believe, the stuff that also makes you dream.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, it's and it lasts for like 6 hours. So it's similar to DMT, not as intense, but you have the benefit of being able to chill out on a couch and think about things. Yeah. So
DMT blasts you, and I mean it's when I did it, I smoked it, and it was very intense. I've done it a couple of times, but the last time that I did it was one of the most frightening experiences of my life.
No shit. Interesting.
Because one of my friends packed it up, and he packed it up way too... it's funny with weed when people do that. I got you, triple thumb screw. Yeah. He got me. Okay. And I was pretty angry at him because you don't fuck with stuff like that.
Yeah, sure.
So I had it, and straight away,
it's straight away. It's seconds.
Instantly, my vision zoomed up, and it was like I was looking down on the room. Yeah. I was in a very comfortable space. The Doors was playing. We're in a room, on a couch. Yeah. The geometric patterns and colours started evolving, and I was seeing spaces where gravity doesn't go from down up to down. It goes from side to side, and there's a path in the middle. And then things took a little bit of an evil turn, where there were these entities that were spiders and snakes and stuff like that, and it went on for this has gone on for over 10 minutes.
Yeah, wow.
And I sort of thought, Sam, don't fight it, ride it, because there's nothing you can do. No. Just let it go, let them come. Yeah. But there did reach a point, Chris, where I thought, I'm tired of this. I'm getting a bit tired of it. Yeah, definitely. I'm not fighting it, but I'm a bit bored of these evil entities. And then all of a sudden, they reared their heads up, the snakes, and they pointed to the right. And I have my eyes closed the entire time. I slowly...
the symbol for ayahuasca is a serpent, right?
Is it?
Yeah, they've used it for thousands of years. It's always ayahuasca is always symbolized as a snake because they think it's such a common vision that people have.
Yeah, and the other one I've heard is a puma. Sometimes pops up as well.
Yeah, interesting.
So they all rear their heads up and they point to the right, and I've got my eyes closed, and I slowly turn my head to the right, and as I do so, the brightest light I've ever seen, brighter than staring at the sun, just came out, and my skin, I could feel the hairs on my arms, it felt like I was on Anglesey Beach on a 40-degree day, and I could feel the heat from that sun on me.
No shit,
and then I slowly came out of it and was like, oh, okay, yeah, and it was a pretty full-on experience.
Yeah.
That is, I guess, what they call breakthrough, where you break through into a world that is more real than reality.
Yeah, sure.
And that is when your third eye, I guess, this is what I make of it.
Yeah,
your
sure.
third eye is blasted open.
Yeah.
And that was probably as far as I wanted to go with that. It's not like
you're
I'm
saying, done now. Yeah.
Yeah, like you're saying, you're not having profound insights introspectively into your life with that. It's just a visual and crazy, short thing to do.
Yep.
I didn't come out of it and go, oh, I'm never going to look at the world the same.
No, neither did I. And that's maybe expectations, because I did go into DMT with that. I mean, I also went into ayahuasca with that. And that's why first night I was like, because I was going to bail on first night, and I stayed for the second, which I'm really glad I did. But yeah, DMT, I went into it with that same thing, and I was just like, the fuck is this? Like, that just set me to another reality for 10 minutes, and now I wasn't lucid enough to even think about anything. I got no answers, and that was the reason for doing it for me,
Yeah.
So intense visuals though, fucking hell.
Yeah, it is pretty.
The first thing for me was the ears, like. Was it
yes.
straight away before you've even put it down.
But it is like you said, it is in all living things, and I think I've heard that it's produced in your brain when you die. People say they see the light, like I said just then, I saw the light.
Yep.
Maybe that's what people.
And
say.
There's a big thing. I think Sam Harris talks a lot about this, where people are having near-death experiences. Their brains are basically being flooded with DMT. There's something really interesting as well about, I can't remember, it's something about a woman, it's all like the 49th day of being pregnant. She gets this flood of DMT, and something at that exact same time happens with the fetus as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of weird shit going on with it. There's a lot of, when you're born, you have a flood of it. When you die, you have a flood of it. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. I believe when you dream, I'm not sure, but this, I was going to say chemical, but I think it's a neurotransmitter. There's something going on with it we don't quite understand just yet, and it's super interesting. Yeah.
It's sort of like your third eye is really exposed when that's sort of really taking full effect. So it is funny what you said about the snake then, because there are I've listened to a bit of Hancock, and that's Graham Hancock, and people like that talking about it, and there was talk about either a cougar or a puma as well.
Oh, I remember hearing Graham Hancock mention that.
And like a lady, like the mother ayahuasca, like
a
woman.
Yeah.
So it's sort of weird that these things continue to pop up, and there is probably some spiritual connection with that. It's funny, even with snakes, it's like, that snakes are bad. Like, growing up, if you see a snake, you avoid it.
Yep.
You know that inherently.
Yep.
It doesn't take someone to tell you that they're evil or poisonous.
Yeah, definitely. Chuck a gherkin near a cat, watch it freak out. It's the same thing. There's certain things in us that are just inherently, we go, fuck, bad, run. You know?
Yeah.
So
spider, shark, but definitely serpent. And that's
definitely, yeah.
Going back to, the Bible and way back. So let's talk about the second day and when things got really profound for you. So you drank on the second day, and were they playing music? Can you set the scene for me a bit?
So you've got, going through the ceremony again. So you've got, 30 people just chilling out in this room together. It's a massive room, all on their, sleeping mats and sleeping bags. And you can tell the regulars, Kev, they've got their fucking setup, man. They've got like these primo mattresses. They've got multiple pillows. They've got like their, memory pillows and all this sort of shit. I'm there like just to borrow a mattress from a friend on this thing. And everyone's all in white, which it looks really cool. It does look really, really cool. You got all these people dressed all in white. And that's a respect thing, apparently. It's, when you're going to the mother, you're dressed as white. It's as a respect thing or something like that. And then, he blesses the room as always. You line up one by one, and him and helpers bless you. I believe it's sage, and they, smoke you out and stuff like that, which is weirdly calming. Again, because I know people that have like used sage to clean out rooms before, and I've always gone, you fucking deluded. But what happened later on in that night was I'd be asleep. This actually happened a few times, like, not just sleep, but I'd be laying there on a couch just kind of chilling out, eye mask on, and I'd just feel this massive wave of just warmth and relaxation, and I'm like, what the fuck was that? And I took my eye mask off, and he'd be one of the helpers, like, with the sage thing over me. And it's not that I smelt it, it's not that it's almost like I felt it. It sounds really weird, right? So yeah, he blesses the room and, smudges you, and then you all kind of come back in. And he goes through it for new people, basically says, he'll chat for 15 minutes about the process and basically saying, don't fucking wander off into the bush, which I stupidly did at one point, nearly got killed by a kangaroo.
Oh, God.
And, it kind of
it's good that those people are there as well to
definitely
guide you through it, yeah.
And also because when you're, when you purge, when you vomit, you've got a bucket next to your bed. And my first concern was, you've got 30 people in here. If we're all chucking into buckets, this is going to fucking stink. Yeah. But as soon as you do, almost as soon as someone sits up, you've got like a helper like onto you. Yep. And they come over and just like lightning, they're swapping buckets and they're like tending to you and then moving to the next person. Done amazingly well. They're like lifesavers. And then, the ladies went out and they drank first. Probably, a third of the room were female. They went out, they drank first, kind of came back in, and again you can just tell the people who've done it before. They kind of like get into their sleeping bag and pull their like eye mask over and like you've done this before. As opposed to the newbies, they sit on their mattress and just kind of like anxiously wait, which was me the first night. And then the guys go out and same thing. There's sort of gentle music playing in the background. Then once everyone's drank, or everyone is in the room again, then he comes in and lights go out, and he starts playing like ayahuasca songs, which are beautiful. They're like Spanish. What's the name for them? I can't remember the name.
Is that like Amazonian tribal music?
Exactly. There's
a few drums and sort of flute.
Well, he started with this. I'm not sure what it was almost like a leaf maraca or something. I don't remember what it's called, and he started playing that, and the first few songs, they're in Spanish, I couldn't understand them, but from what I gathered, they were maybe like thank you songs to ayahuasca or something like that. But then he moves on to different things. So the second night, what got me, he was doing those songs, and I'm like, great, it's going to be another night like the first, whatever, I'm just laying here for the next 6 hours, not feeling really anything. Then he moved on to this drum. So he had all these drums set up, and he just started playing these drums, and as soon as he hit that first drum, it's almost like there was some kind of vibration that just went through my body, and I just launched up and just like purged. I was like the second in the whole room as well. And then he moved on from then to a didgeridoo, to singing, to guitar, he's just playing music all night. And for the most part, it's songs that you don't know, original songs or just music through the didgeridoo or drums or like different gongs or whatever. Sometimes audio music as well. Like there was one point where he played Jeff Buckley's Hallelujah.
Oh, gorgeous song.
Mate, try it in the state I was in.
Yeah,
oh
sure.
My God. The room just breaking into tears. And like, because I was having like flashes just of various things in my life. I know it's so cliche throughout the whole night. But as soon as they started playing that, this vision popped into my head of Jeff Buckley's mum. So like after that album, Jeff Buckley was huge, and then he died mysteriously as well. Yeah. And I know his mother gathered up a whole bunch of his other songs and tried to get them out. And I had this vision of how upset his mum was, and I just burst into tears. Yeah. Like it's fucking weird, but I'm like listening to this song, and it was like, you can see it when I'm talking about it on the video. I'm like crying in the video the next day. It hit me so hard. Yep. And then basically that kind of progresses, and then within a few hours, you kind of coming to. And you can notice it around the room as well, because you'll look up and you'll just see other people like, hey, what's up? Yeah. And you and then it reaches a point where everyone's like, all right, we're all good. Let's go get some food. Just go. And then you tuck in because you've fasted all day, and it's such an experience that you are so hungry by the end of it. You are absolutely
mentally
ravenous.
It would be
mentally exhausted but clear as well in a way. So, but you've. Again, I that was only my second time doing it, so I don't have enough experience to say that that's definitely what ayahuasca is. For other people, it might be very tame. Other people, it might even be more intense. I just don't know. I want to go again soon just so I can get more experience. So yeah, that was kind of the process in a nutshell. But those sort of 6 hours where you're under that influence is pretty interesting.
Did you come into it with any idea of what you wanted to think about? Or
I did.
Yeah. And what was that?
Well, I wanted to think about work.
Yep.
And just sort of see where I was going with my business. Because I've been doing this for so long, I wanted to just sort of get some clarity on where am I going with this? What am I doing? You know, what's going on here? I also wanted some clarity on a particular girl in my life.
Sure.
And just clarity on a lot of things. A lot of people go to it with life direction.
Yep.
Just where am I going? You know, and that, of course that's what happens. People reach a point where they go, what exactly am I doing? You know, I'm 35. What am I doing? I'm here in this job or whatever. Guys, girls, different ages, and then they go looking, and then they call it the ayahuasca calling. You know, and people, and when you hear it, you hear it, and so I went into it wanting to look at those things specifically and just get some clarity, and I did, but for the most part, it just sends you to look at other things as well. Like I mentioned in that video that a lot came up about my family and about my mum, which I was not expecting to think about at all.
Yeah.
But it was incredibly emotional, all that sort of stuff coming up. A lot of my visions were actually about my mum, you know, having visions of I saw my parents meet. When you say saw, it's not like in front of you. I had my eyes closed with my eyes, but you see it clear as day. You know, you see them dressed, you see their faces, you see what's going on around. It's very, very odd.
when they first met?
When they met, yeah.
Wow.
And I was only iffy on those facts, but in this little dream, hallucination, vision, whatever, you know, I was like, oh, they're both 18. And then I actually was talking to my mum the next day because I told her. So she was like, yeah, give me a call after. Let me know how it goes. Yeah. I was like, wait, when did you meet Dad? She was like, I was 18. Dad was 17. I was like, fuck, that's, you know, because that's what I was told in this thing. Because I knew
that they was 17.
Yeah,
18.
well, Mum was 18. Dad was 17. In this
Wow.
little vision, it was like saying that they're 18. And I knew the gist of how they met, but I actually didn't know the specifics.
What did you see?
What sorry?
What did you see when they met?
Young versions of themselves in this, you know, bar thing, club thing. And it was just like my vision was focusing on their faces. You know, it was almost like my mum reminded me of my sister. Yeah. They looked very, very similar. And just seeing their faces, very, very young. Yeah. You know, this glowing skin and very young. They're fucking 18 and 17, so obviously quite young and youthful. And so it was bizarre to just sort of see that unfold. And it was very, very odd. The guy that I went down with, he was telling me the next day, because his first night, because he's done it before, his first night was very, very intense. But his second night, he had a bit of a dark journey. He was saying he was sitting up at certain points and he was seeing people in the room being reborn, you know, and
That's what often comes up as well, rebirth.
Yeah, interesting.
So I want to go with your parents still, because your dad's not with us anymore.
No, he died 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did anything come up in relation to that?
No. Well, the point, I saw my mum going through what she did when he died. Like I saw her face,
yep.
And I felt her emotion, which obviously, you know, if someone dies, you're like, fuck, that's going to be, especially, they were together for 36 years or something. So you imagine it's traumatic or something, but it's almost like I was in her shoes.
Yeah, feeling it as she
I was feeling exactly what she was feeling, wow. Which I'd never done before. And also to be in someone's shoes, this particular person in my life, I was in her shoes as well. The girl that I mentioned, I was in her shoes, and it's like I felt what she was feeling when she was just interacting with me. And this girl is still very close to me. She's a great, great girl. But I was feeling what she was feeling when we were interacting. It was very, very odd.
What was that sort of feeling?
It was, I remember telling her this the next day, and I said, it was though, you know, I was her, and it was though I just wanted to hear 2 or 3 things. So Chris Manak was in front of me, and he was talking a bunch of shit. He was talking a lot, and he was saying a lot, but the 2 or 3 things that I, as her, really wanted to hear, it's almost like he was saying everything but that. And I was just going, and this feeling I felt was, you know, love and friendship and, you know, sexual connection and all that. But it's almost like I felt this longing as her. I felt this longing of, you know, I love you, and saying all this great stuff, and we've got all this amazing stuff, whatever, but the couple things that I want to hear from you, I can't hear. And it was fucking odd. So I didn't, these certain things, I didn't go into this with the intention to look at them at all. At all. They weren't really even,
So you sort of maybe went into it to think about a couple of things, and a few of those things did come up that you thought about, but it wasn't really your view that came up. It was
definitely
from their perspective, looking at you.
Yeah, and the so the
that
work
is absolutely fascinating.
Fucking weird, right? So the work thing for me was actually sorted on the first night. So the one little thing that I did have on the first night was, because I've got certain plans for my business and where I'm going in the future, and it was as though this voice just said to me, keep doing what you're doing. You're exactly where you need to be. Your plan is actually going to come to fruition exactly how you plan it. Keep doing what you're doing. Done. Next. And I was like seriously? I was just there kind of going, is that it? Like, give me more.
And that's sort of what you teach as well. Like from listening to the last podcast I did with you.
Yeah.
It's about doing what you love.
Yeah.
And what you're good at.
Yeah, sure.
And you're obviously good at this, and it's obviously going quite well for you. So when Mother Ayahuasca, whatever it is telling you, keep doing what you're doing, it's all going to work out.
Yeah, definitely.
That's pretty much the message that you push to your clients as well.
Yeah, for sure. And look, there's a big thing in this, you can argue, well, these are just your subconscious thoughts coming up, which, I've heard Joe Rogan mention this before, whether these are delusional visions, whether these are just deep-seated subconscious things, or whether they are real and are from another world, it doesn't matter, because either way you're experiencing. So, me experiencing the feelings of other people, it doesn't really matter if it's real, or if, if I am transported somewhere, or if it is a complete delusion, because I'm still experiencing it. So it doesn't,
It happens no matter what.
It happens no matter what.
Yeah.
So me being very sciencey, I look at it and just go, yeah, these are delusions, these are subconscious thoughts.
Yeah.
But then it's like, it doesn't matter. If you're still experiencing them,
it
like
happened,
what,
And science is hard with this sort of stuff because, how do you define what consciousness is?
Yeah.
How do you define what's seen with that third eye?
We
can't, and it's not... it's not something that we can use science to define at this point.
And I always bear in mind that, even this morning actually, I told you I went to get to blood test because certain foods are fucking with me. I don't know how, but certain foods are making me quite tired. And I went to get this allergy blood test, and I was looking at reviews online before I did it because it was quite expensive. And there were several science blogs, pages, whatever, saying there's no science to back this up. Don't worry, don't do it. But then probably 80% of the reviews I read were going, fuck, I cut out these foods and I feel amazing now. So the science is just kind of going, no, there's no proof behind it. But then these people are going, this really helped me. And I always think back to, I'm a big meditator. I talk about meditation quite a fair bit. And it's only probably, 70, 80 years ago that meditation was seen as this mystic woo-woo thing that had no science to back it up, and now there's a shit ton of science to back up.
Or we thought that the world was flat. There's many things that were science that it were completely wrong.
Yeah, planets, it's always kind of catching up. So I think it's good to look at things and be skeptical, especially in this area. We're talking about illicit substances and all that. But I think we are kind of coming into the golden age of science and reason, I believe, where it's just going to snowball really, really quickly, and a lot of this stuff's going to kind of catch up. So if only 100 years ago, the thing that really helps me a shit ton, which is meditation, was just seen as this woo-woo thing that gurus in India did, and now it's kind of like, there's a shit ton of science behind it. What nowadays are we looking at kind of going, it's just, that's just some weird brew from the fucking jungle. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
That, in another 100 years, we could be going, oh my God, how did they not see that?
Yeah.
So...
It's funny, the quote that you put up as well was that Graham Hancock said, no person should become the president or prime minister until they've done ayahuasca 10 times.
Yeah. No one should go into politics. No, anyone going into politics should be required to drink ayahuasca at least 10 times before being allowed to run for office.
Yeah, and it sounds, I know there's people who are listening to this who are going to go, that sounds absurd.
Yep.
It's a drug, drug users and whatever.
Yep.
But I really feel sorry for those people. I honestly do.
Yeah.
Because, you get these people in Parliament, you get, Tony Abbott, whoever, fill in the blank of whoever it is.
Yeah.
You can tell that these people haven't done psychedelic drugs and expanded their consciousness to the point where they realise that we're all brothers and sisters. We should love each other, spread love, help each other, feel empathy for other people, and things like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that they're bad people. I'm not saying everyone has to do it, but you can really learn a lot about yourself.
So much, and other people, as I saw, the empathy thing that I got was huge. And what I found,
which is the strongest emotion, apparently, empathy.
Is it really? Okay.
Yeah, they say.
And what's interesting about, I guess politicians, you look at, what is it, America is like, 70% Christian, like fundamentalist Christian, or maybe not fundamentalist, at least Christian. And you've got this massive amount who believe that the world's under 10,000 years old. And they'll look at it and kind of go, drugs bad, It's like, you've got your completely delusional shit. Maybe let us have ours. It's interesting. The world is 5,000 years old, but don't touch that shit that is grown in the forest that people have been using for thousands of years, that gives you visions and insight and empathy in other people, because that shit's evil. Okay. Let me refer to your little book for a moment and we'll discuss evil. Anyway, we won't even get into that.
It's funny because you often don't hear about, it's the Bill Hicks thing. You don't hear about the positive drug experience. You hear
definitely
about the guy who took acid and jumped off a cliff or whatever, but you don't hear about the guy who discovered that consciousness is all in all living things, and we're all one. And the merry-go-round that he talks around. Anyone should look it up who's listening to this. Because
Bill Hicks on drugs is phenomenal. And what's he say? Like, he's an idiot. He's dead. Good.
Fuck him. We lost the idiot.
Oh no, we're missing an idiot. Oh no, why so down? Oh, the world's missing an idiot.
The world just feels lighter.
Yeah. And he said, what would it be? I saw this written on the pavement a while ago. It was awesome. Someone said, wouldn't it be interesting if, we just for once saw a good drug experience in the news, And today this guy in wherever discovered that all matter is merely energy condensed, and just goes on this big long rant, and then he's like, and here's Tom with the weather. It's so good.
It's because it doesn't sell headlines as well, and the media is also the issue, because they recently I did a podcast with this guy called Will Tregony, who is the founder of this organization called Unharm, and now they campaign to have drugs, personal possession of drugs, treated as a harm minimization and educational issue, and like a medical issue, rather than criminalizing people.
Yeah, definitely.
Throwing a book at them,
locking them up. Portugal's done that. I've seen a massive drop in crime. Massive drop in use as well.
Violent crime. Massive drop.
Yeah. So.
And what he said was that the media loves a drug story, like.
Of course.
Celebrity gets caught with cocaine. Bang, it's up. And then that happens, and this celebrity has to show remorse and be like, I was going through a real rough period. I was depressed. I had mental issues.
He's got to play the part.
It's like, let's have a real conversation about it. Let's have an honest and open conversation with two people who aren't drug addicts, who might use it, psychedelic or otherwise, but who are not drug addicts, who do not have a problem, who are absolutely fucking dominating in life.
Oh, definitely, drugs don't cause addiction. Mental illness causes addiction. That's been proven time and time and time again. Have you heard of the rat study where they got... so they basically put a rat in, I think they called it pet paradise or something like that. Rat heaven, I think they called it. It's this big thing where rats would just be like... totally in heaven. They're super, super happy in this big thing, whatever, it's huge. And so they had two droppers, one water and one water laced with cocaine. And they put a rat in there, and he basically just became a cocaine addict in no time. Just fuck water, wasn't eating, just living off cocaine, was like depressed, was just kind of hiding out in a corner or whatever. Then they took rats and did the same thing, and they put the water and then the cocaine laced water, but they put multiple rats in there. Basically, the rats went and tried like the cocaine water and and didn't touch it again, and they just kept drinking the water. So what it basically proved was, in isolation, people are much, much more inclined, people, rats, whatever, are much more inclined to seek drug use if they've got that social circle, if they've got that. Basically, the point of it is isolation is the number one thing causing.
So he was
addiction.
bored. That rat wasn't. It wasn't that he was addicted to it and had to get it. It was that he was bored and there was nothing else going on. And
I think rats, much like us, are social creatures, and they need that to function properly. Because if you're isolated from people, you'll start to fucking hallucinate. You'll go loopy.
And people do their own head. I've got mates who have lived on their own, and it sounds great in theory because you're not going to have your housemate's dishes always there and
Yeah.
you can do what you want.
Yeah.
But also, you're probably going to do your own head in.
Yeah, definitely. I always say that my job is great for me, even on the days that I hate it, because the days that I do hate it, I'm forced to interact not only with clients, but random people on the street and in bars. Like I have no, people are paying for the good shit that they've heard about. They're not paying for me to have an off day. So I have no choice to, no, I'm just having a flat day. I don't have that option.
Yeah. You've got to be on.
Got to be on. And what it happens time and time again, I'll go into a session feeling flat or just a bit like whatever. 2 hours later, I'm like buzzing.
Yeah.
And, just because I've been forced to interact with people.
Yeah.
So
it's like when you go to the supermarket or something, Chris, or you go to a cafe and there's an elderly pensioner like in their 70s and they're just chatting away to the coffee guy and you're like, you might be in a rush and you're sort of like, come on, like they're chatting away. But you're sort of like, she's probably lonely, her husband died and she's longing to interact with people and have a chat. How's your day and this and that? Yeah. And maybe they used to do that more as well back in the day.
Yeah.
But I think it's more that she's probably lonely and just is really longing for some human interaction because we are social creatures, as you were saying, and we absolutely need it.
Yeah.
I told you last time, I lived in Perth for about a year and a half and was doing the corporate law thing, and I didn't have in hindsight, I probably should have joined a football team and met a bunch of people. But the hectic job and not that much time, and I was pretty lonely. And I drank way too much alcohol, and I was just like, I drink, but I don't have a problem with it. It's just on the weekends and stuff. Yeah. But then I was drinking a lot during the week, and I felt like the mouse that you were talking about. And then
I can relate. Because I'm very open about my past good and bad. Even if I'm going through a personal rough spot, I'll just like, fuck it, I'm just telling anyone, I don't care. And, when I first started experiencing sex in like mid-teens, like 16, it actually freaked me out. The first, couple of times I had sex, I was like, fuck, this is like, it was very intense. It freaked me out to the point where I've sort of vowed off sex for a few years. And because I didn't discuss it with anyone, my later teens and early 20s were very reclusive, very, I basically spent those years playing my guitar, getting stoned, listening to The Doors in my room. For that was years. And I've teed those two up, So you can have a traumatic experience or an experience or something, and if you aren't able to express it to other people, then I think this is what happens. So I think a lot of quote addicts, I think this is what's happening. You've obviously got mental illness and neurological imbalance, all that sort of stuff as well. But I think this is largely what's happened. They have stuff that they've been unable to express, and so they go into this shell, and you just become this shell of interacting with people, And I think even I used to have, back when I fucking had hair, this hairdresser in the city, I'd go to him, and he was telling me that his friend was a heroin dealer in the city, and he said basically, he probably shouldn't be saying this, but whatever, he'd just go to a certain street in the city every Thursday, and he said he'd just be inundated with businessmen. And like every Thursday, you just go to this corner in the middle of the city. I won't say which corner or whatever. And this guy would just get inundated with business people. This guy's selling heroin, and my hairdresser is just basically going, "This guy, that's all he does. That's his whole income." Because every Thursday, basically all these people that are functioning people of society, working in all these corporate jobs and high up corporate jobs,
the heroin addicts,
actually heroin addicts, but they're just functional heroin addicts.
And apparently, I did talk to a criminal lawyer, Robert Richter, on the podcast once, and he was saying that, if you're a heroin addict and you have access to clean heroin, you can fully function. Yeah. You're functioning like a normal person.
No shit, interesting.
So it's not... You think about the guy in Richmond sitting in the laneway fucking putting a needle in his arm. Yeah. Sitting there without a job, unemployed, and that's the heroin addict. Yeah. Look at Philip Seymour Hoffman. Yeah. One of the best actors of all time. Yeah. Look at Kurt Cobain. Yep. From probably one of the greatest rock and roll bands of all time. Yeah. They weren't fucking sitting in a laneway doing nothing. No. They were hard
Kurt was
working.
using like $700 worth of heroin a day, I think.
Yeah, and they didn't stop. These people were workaholics. Yep. They were fully functioning.
And what happened to Kurt Cobain? His parents split when he was like 7, 8 or 9. He never expressed it to anyone, and that became his thing. Even his mother said he was a different person from birth until after that. So I swear it's that thing. You have these events that happen, and that they never get expressed. And I think the beauty of ayahuasca, at least from what I've seen, ayahuasca is remarkably effective at curing addiction, particularly drug addiction. Like,
I've heard that.
That's the one thing that I've read a shit ton about, and that's the one thing that they're really pushing for. Like, the irony is people see it as a drug, but it's curing people of all this drug addiction.
Yeah.
And my theory is what's happening is because you are reliving that experience, it's almost like an expression, because, you know, you might have had this thing 5-10 years and you've never expressed it to anyone, and now it's a form of expression because you're reliving it. I didn't experience this myself. I didn't relive any trauma or anything, but apparently that's quite a common thing. You know, I saw a documentary once on a woman who'd been, I think, raped as a child, and they filmed the whole thing, and this girl's ayahuasca journey looked horrific. She's screaming and kicking and like, because she's reliving this experience in her head. So, but then they followed her up from memory from the documentary, and she became a functioning person of society, you know.
Yeah.
So
I have heard a lot about that as well. An example which I'll talk about, which I heard again from Hancock, because he's spoken a lot about this, was that he was in. So this guy's a he's an author, but he's very involved in history and ancient history and
amazing stuff,
all that sort of stuff, and ancient civilizations particularly. Yeah. But he's also a massive stoner, and he's got a wife called Santha, and they live in London. And he was talking about how he had this weed dealer who was like giving him really, really strong, like high THC weed, and you know that can make people paranoid. Yep. And he got a bit paranoid that his wife was cheating on him, or something was going on.
She was out to get him.
Yeah, that there was something going on with her, and then he went over and did a ceremony, and basically the mother ayahuasca in the ceremony told him, "You're killing Santha. You're killing your wife."
Actually, now that you mention that, I remember hearing an interview with him where he said the same thing. I felt what she was feeling around me.
Exactly.
It was an interview he did, I think it was London Real or something.
Okay.
So that's again that empathy thing coming up, and you feel what you're doing to people.
Exactly, and that's what he felt, and what came from it was that his addiction to marijuana, you know, making him paranoid or whatever, was really what was causing it, and it was like, this is what's making it happen. So he went back to England and was like, oh, okay, you know, whatever, and he smokes with a vaporizer. Yeah. So he got back and he had some weed there, and he filled up his vaporizer, and he inhaled it, and he goes, that just tasted like poison. It was the worst thing I've ever tasted. It tasted like death. Yeah. And he didn't touch it for like 3 years after
chucked all his stuff out.
Yeah, went threw it all out, flushed it in the toilet.
And I think it was 11 years of smoking non-stop all day, every day. And I think he did like 10 or so ceremonies in Brazil over the space of a couple of weeks. And he said by the time I got back, he said, he didn't think anything of it either. And just walked down, he's like, fuck this. He loaded up and he said, I couldn't take another toke. It just tasted horrific, and it fucked me up.
To him, yeah. And so that was it. And he didn't smoke for a while after. I think he's back on it now.
Oh, is he? Probably from being around fucking Joe Rogan. Hey, I'm just going to duck to the toilet.
Yeah, sure. I'll pause it. Sorry. Okay, pee break done. We are
pee break done.
Yeah, it's funny. So you just walk through. We're doing this in my office, which is in Burke Street in Melbourne. And it's funny that you say it's funny being back in an office, because you did go from the office lifestyle. Did you work for an insurance or any?
It was insurance financing. Okay. So, I mean, a lot of big companies' insurances are huge. Yeah. You know, you look at Myers and all these sort of big companies, their insurances for the year are fucking huge. Yeah. So basically, what I used to do, or what the companies that I used to work for did, they would finance these insurances and, you know, charge a minuscule amount of interest, and then people could use the cash flow better. You know, if you got Myers paying 4 or 5 mil a year or something, whatever it is, and we say, look, we'll pay that and you pay us back at this minuscule amount of interest, then they can take that money and they can invest it somewhere else and actually earn much more. So it makes a lot of sense. It's a good idea.
But it doesn't seem like you miss the office lifestyle.
No, I don't.
No. It sucks. Like, I mean...
Sorry.
I work... Yeah, like... This company here is just, they share an office with us. Oh, okay. So I work for my own business with my dad. Yep. So we work together, and it's like, you know, if I want to work from home that morning, I can, or if I want to
Nice.
work on my podcast, then I'll do more work later on. Or
Yeah.
he gives me that flexibility, and
Yeah,
that's
it's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But I did used to work for a corporate law firm. It was like get there at 8 o'clock, leave at 8 o'clock,
Wow.
maybe get called in on the weekend,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah, I remember
fuck
those.
that, like fuck that. And you know, I was saying on my last podcast with my mate Brownie that the minute that I stopped doing that, my creativity came flooding back. Like
Yeah.
I'm a muso as well. Like this is
Yeah.
why I have all this recording shit, is because, you know, initially like I've been a musician,
Nice.
and I think it this girlfriend that I used to have, she did this. She was like psychology and all that, so that probably means that she's a head case. But she had this test. It's like a test that you can do, and it gives you like your top 5 things, which is like you're really good at, you should aim towards.
Yeah.
And hers was like social intelligence, but mine was like creativity.
Yep.
Like the number one thing is creativity.
Yeah.
So when you're working in a corporate law firm doing mergers and acquisitions, as you say,
Yeah.
murders and executions, it there's no creativity there.
Yeah.
Like you can be, I guess you could be creative in some way, but it's not like making a podcast or
Yeah,
writing
sure.
a song.
Yeah. And you're probably good at it because you had that creativity. I think I did pretty well in my job. The last place I was in, I got headhunted for the role.
Yep.
Probably annoying a bunch of people as well because I just kind of slid straight in there
Yeah.
with no fucking finance history, no insurance, like not much corporate sort of stuff at all. And I think I did okay. I just looked at things differently, I guess. And I guess one thing I talk a lot about is I had the same mentality that I have with what I coach. You know, one thing I try and get my guys to do is to have this mentality of abundance. You don't need anything from anyone. So when you're approaching a girl, if it works out, great. If not, next. You know, if she wants to see you again, awesome. If not, who cares? What do you care? So, you know, I'd be making sort of these phone calls and it sort of have the same mentality rather than going, hello, Mr. Black, how was did your team get up on the weekend? My mentality was kind of more like, dude, this is why you should do this. This is what we get out of it. This is what you get. Like, it's dumb to not do it. Do you want to do it? You know, and I guess I kind of had that more of that mentality.
Yeah. More carefree and sort of like there's nothing to lose.
Yeah, and there's nothing to sell. I think people take a step back as soon as they feel that you want something from them.
Yeah.
And it's huge with my clients, you know, if you're approaching girls for your own amusement, most of the time if I'm approaching, it's just so I can shift my mood and get a bit more social. So I'm doing it entirely for me. I want nothing from them. And I think it's the same sort of thing in sales or whatever. If you come from that place of, I want this, of course I want this, but I don't need it. I'm not bothered if I don't get it.
Yeah.
I think people tend to go, fuck, okay.
People can smell that as well.
Yeah.
And it's funny because my brother-in-law to be is in marketing and business development, sort of, you know, what I do with my day job.
Yeah.
And he was telling me, like, we were having a good chat, and he was saying that it's not about you going, this is what I can offer you, this is what I can provide to you, this is what I'm doing, how can we work together? It's what are you doing? What are you looking for? And how can we sort of work together to achieve your objective? It's not saying that this is us, this is what we do, and me, because they're going, boring sales guy, automatically fuck off.
Definitely, yeah.
It's about like asking them about what they need.
Totally, yeah. And that's the first thing I ask my guys as well, like, what do you want from this? Because, you know, I'm in a position where I can't, you know, some guys want to fucking get married, other guys want to go out and play the field or whatever. It's not my place to judge, so I just kind of have to cater to that. And it's funny with the sales thing as well, like, because I love helping people with business. I'm actually putting on a business seminar in the next kind of couple of months.
Awesome.
And, you know, I think if I meet up with a guy now, and because I generally have a little bit of a waiting list, so if I meet a guy, and I've had people, this has happened a few times where people have gone, I don't want any coaching, I'd just love to grab a quick coffee with you, have a bit of a chat, and you know, and within an hour they're kind of like, dude, when can you get me in? Because and that's not because everything I do is amazing, it's just because of the mentality of like, I need nothing from you, so I'm giving you honest, genuine advice. I don't, you know, you're not some
biased friend going, and it's funny when friends give you advice, you're sort of like, fuck off. You know what I mean? Mate, this is what guys don't like being told. This is what you need to do.
Yeah, sure.
From someone who's just like, I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I think it was always like, take advice from people who have, I don't know, that you'd like to be, and not just, you know, don't take advice from someone who's good with women and just good with. I know people that are good with women and they're sociopaths.
Yeah.
Well, don't take advice from someone just because they're wealthy, because again, they
might be
could be a
greedy
sociopath. I tend to look at the person, their integrity. Would I want to be like that person in these areas? If so, then I'm happy to. I've had clients teach me a lot. I've had very wealthy clients or very cultured clients or whatever teach me a lot, and because they've been genuinely cool people, I've just soaked it in, like learnt heaps.
It's very important to surround yourself, I think, with people that you want to be like. There is some quote surrounding
there's
that.
a lot.
I don't remember what it is, but it's like surround yourself with people that you want to be like, and you will sort of.
And I was in a seminar once. It's rare that I'm in a seminar because ironically I fucking hate self-help. But I found myself in a seminar once, and the lady said, take the 5 people that you're around. She said, add up their incomes or your estimate of their incomes, then divide it by 5. I kid you not, I was probably $2,000 off. Like, it was so spot on, it freaked me out. So try that, listeners at home.
Yeah.
All the income of the 5 closest people to you, or estimated income, added up, divided by 5. It might be different, but for me it was fucking bang on the money.
Yeah, sure.
So found it very interesting.
So with your meditation, what sort of things are you... Because I don't mind meditation. I don't do it enough.
Yep.
But when I do it, I do guided meditations.
Oh, yeah. You like Headspace or something like that?
Yeah, there's a podcast called Meditation Oasis, and there's this woman with a very calm voice, and there's sort of ones, there's like meditation for a healthy body, meditation for energy, meditation, for whatever. So if I'm like not feeling well, I do the healthy body, and it
cool.
really gets you to think about your body and to become in touch with your heart and feel your pulse and your breathing and concentrate on that. And I feel really good after.
Nice.
But I don't do it enough.
Yeah,
What
sure.
what sort of meditation do you do?
Basically, I have a seat like this next to my bed, very, very similar. And I'll sit just like I am now. I'll set my alarm for 20 minutes, and I close my eyes and I just wait. I'm not spinning like this, but I just wait.
And what about thoughts come into your head about work or whatever?
I don't fight them. And this is like, I guess I kind of taught myself meditation. So I don't really do any form of meditation. I know there's mantra meditation, all these different things, which, I've played with, they're all cool. But I just found for me, it was always, if I sit down, sometimes I go straight into it, but other times, what will happen is my mind will just hit me with a lot of thoughts, a lot of worries or whatever. And I found that the more I tried to fight them, the more I tried to get out, I'm meditating, get out of my head. Yeah. I'd spend 20 minutes fighting off my thoughts, and I'd never actually find peace. Yeah. Whereas if I just let my mind do whatever it wants to do, usually by the 10-minute mark, it's calmed down a lot. It's almost like a kid. I've said this before, it's like a spoiled kid. If you just kind of go, fucking do it, I don't care, I'll be over here. It'll kind of just go, hey, wait, what are you doing? Whereas if you keep saying no to it, it's going to keep doing the same thing. So I do that for 20 minutes, and then I've got a weird little vision thing that I do, whereas I'll have my phone in front of me like this, and I'll set it for 1 minute, just quickly, and I'll close it, and I'll visualize one goal for 1 minute, then I'll hit it again, another goal, and I'll do that 5 times. So I do 25 minutes in total every day. Yeah. And that's
every day?
Every day,
And is this part of your routine? Do you wait? Because I know that you do sprints and stuff too, don't you?
Yeah.
So you live in South Bank now?
Yep.
Do you go over to Botanical Gardens?
I do.
That's a stunning spot, isn't it?
Oh, it's heaven. Absolutely heaven.
Yeah.
And
it's a short walk from here as well, so it's on a nice day. I'll
just walk across the road. I'm there often enough that I've started to actually weave a little pathway into the grass bit where I'm at. So I'm hoping they don't come along and fucking stop doing that.
No, you'll be right.
So it's good.
So that's part of the routine. So you meditate and run.
For a long, long while, I woke up, I meditated, I went and did sprints. But now I'm actually going to the gym a bit more now. So what I'm trying to do is I still wake up and meditate. Look, I say every day, 5-6 days a week.
Sure,
There's odd day. Like if I wake up Sunday and I've gotten to bed at 3 a.m. and I've got to start again at 12, I'm not going to wake up and fucking meditate.
But as a normal routine on a normal day, you would.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. So I still do sprints probably 2, 3, 4 times a week.
Sprints fuck you up.
Oh, and they're awesome. And I've read so much about them that for me, it's just so obvious in my moods because I'm very moody. Anyone that knows me well, I'm very moody. And I find sprints just balance me out. Because I read a book once called, it's called Spark. I think it's called the Neuroscience of High Intensity Exercise. And I read that, and it's a massive book on all the science behind specifically high intensity exercise.
Like you're chasing down an animal. Like we should be using our bodies to, hunt down a kangaroo, run after it for miles and sprint at the end, and then you get a mad feed.
Yeah.
Now we just go to the supermarket, buy a fucking steak, and have no connection to the animal whatsoever.
Oh, definitely, I know. Yeah.
So when you're saying that there's a high, definitely there is, and
Yeah.
it feels fucking awesome to
Yeah.
sprint. The next day, man, your legs, if you haven't done it for a while, like,
Oh, definitely,
you're
yeah.
blasted. You can...
What I find really good is I'll go to the gym and then go and do my sprints like on the way home, because I'm going past there anyway, and I find that the best.
Yeah.
I find that. But yeah, if I'm feeling flat, it's because I've not meditated or not done sprints for a few days. So I'll kind of let myself drift, and then I'll snap back into it and off I go again. So
I definitely noticed that as well with myself. I don't feel really good unless I'm doing, and sometimes I can't do it. Like yesterday I was in Sydney, I had like 4 meetings there, then came back, got home, had dinner, cleaned the house, and I'm like, well, I don't feel like exercising now.
Yeah,
like I'm,
for sure.
I'm buggered. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, on a normal week, at least 3 times.
And I think it's important to have that as well. Like I think it's, if I get wiped out or something, I just kind of wake up and, like you say, a normal day I do it. But if I'm wiped out or something, I think look at how many times you've done meditation or sprints or gym or whatever over the year. And if you're clocking like 300 plus, awesome. But if you miss a few days over the year, doesn't mean shit, because then I think you start to associate it with, I don't know, like it's just, it starts to become like this. Anything your brain associates negativity to, you're going to start to feel a lot of resistance to doing. So I know with myself, if I wake up occasionally and I'm just rushed around or whatever, that's fine. I just know I'm going to do it the next day. It's the problem comes in where you skip a day and then you think, oh, I might as well not do it today because I missed yesterday as well. Yeah. And then it can sort of lead to this thing, which I'm guilty of as well sometimes, but I hit probably 3-4 days tops where I'm like, Chris, fucking, because I joke with clients, but there's a lot of truth to it. I feel that my because of my moods and because I'm a little bit mental, that I don't have the option. Because if I don't do this, my brain starts to cause havoc. So I guess I'm kind of lucky in that sense. I don't have the choice. Because otherwise I start getting into a fucked up place.
Yeah, same. And I start stressing about things as well that I shouldn't stress about. It's funny because I was talking about you the other day. I was talking to a girl who I met at a party that we had on Saturday night at our place, and she was asking me about my podcast, and she said, who were the more interesting ones, and I said that you were, and she goes, oh, what does he do? I said, oh, he's sort of dating coach, pick-up artist, I guess you'd say. And she goes, oh, was it that guy who got banned? I go, no, it wasn't Julian Blanc. And automatically there's this association that if you say pick-up artist, that it's some sleazy guy who's teaching guys how to fuck girls and become a misogynist. And I actually went into bat for you hard and was like, no, it's like, he's not saying that. He's saying, work on yourself, work on you, get fit, learn how to dress well, do something that makes you happy. And become attractive so that you attract girls. Exactly. And she's like, oh, like, that's really fascinating. It doesn't take fucking a genius to sort of put that together, but there's this stupid negative stereotype. Still, it's like the drugs thing we mentioned before. Exactly.
If you're not educated on certain things, and it's like when I was talking to, I think it was Triple J recently, when they had more fucking pickup. They always call me when there's like pickup artist drama goes down, which I don't mind as long as they put my words correctly and don't twist it into like. Well, you're not going to get cut up here, that's sure. That's good. But I was asked about it recently, and I said, I think what you all seem to be forgetting is that like everyone seems to be acting as though little Johnny next door is going to watch a video on YouTube and suddenly he's just going to be this boss who's manipulating thousands of women. The reality is 99.9% of guys are going to watch something on YouTube and they're going to fucking battle it out for the next year or two, and then might get a girlfriend or might get some girlfriend or might get laid after a year or two of slogging. 80% are just not going to do anything because they're going to quit. So like, it's almost like people see any kind of pickup artist stuff as though, oh, you're just going to implant this stuff in this guy's head and then he's going to be a monster. It's like, no. No, exactly. Even if I could do that, he just can't. Like, it takes so long to get half decent at this that, so guys watch all this sort of stuff for a bit of inspiration to just get out there. And in all honesty, if someone is watching a fucked up video on YouTube and it gets them out to try to talk to a girl in a bar, because most guys are inherently nice guys, they just are, then awesome. If it gets them, people ask me about the game all the time, and I wasn't a huge fan of the game, but I always say the one thing that I do like about it is that it fucking got guys going. It got guys out there. Even if they were going about it a really weird way, it still got them doing something, which is better than nothing. Yeah. Do you know? So I don't really see how any of this is different to Cleo or Cosmo or all that, shit for girls.
Oh, it's funny. Yeah, it is funny that there's a sort of difference. Obviously, there's a difference between men and women. But have you seen the Crazy Hot Matrix?
No.
So it's a guy on YouTube.
Oh yeah, I have. Yeah, that guy. Yeah, he talks about the unicorns and shit.
Yeah, and he's talking about
this is a unicorn. This doesn't exist.
Yeah. There's like
this level of hotness without this level of crazy doesn't exist. Yeah.
So there's like the axis going from the bottom to the top, which is like how crazy a girl is, and it starts at 4 because all girls are at least a 4 crazy, and it goes up to 10. And then the hotness goes the usual 0 to 10. And he's like, anything above a 6 to hot to an 8 hot, and from a 4 to a 6 crazy is like your fun zone. And then above that's like the girlfriend zone, and then there's the wife zone, and then there's the unicorn zone. And then at the end of it, and it's sort of funny, like I guess there's elements of it that are pretty true.
Well, that's why it went viral, because there are elements of truth to it.
A lot of truth to it. Not but it's not indicative of all women,
of course not,
and of the way that guys think. But overall, it is pretty true, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely.
And then he gets asked at the end of that, is there an equivalent for guys?
Okay, I don't know.
And he goes, it's called the cute rich matrix.
Okay.
So you go from how rich he is from 0 to 10, and how hot he is from 0 to 10.
Yeah.
And like their husband zone is like above an 8 hot, above an 8 rich.
Okay.
And then there's their fun zone. So they will go for a guy who's
hot
attractive, who doesn't have any cash.
Yeah.
But they won't go for a guy who's not attractive and doesn't have any cash.
Yeah, it's the old what do they call it? That principle, the lover provider principle. Have you heard of that?
No, what is that?
That guys fall into one of two categories, either the lover or the provider.
Yeah.
And so your provider is the typical husband, good income, very stable emotionally, very, just your nice guy, your guy that's kind of sorted and established. And then you've got your lover, which is, your attractive guy out in a bar, the guy who's not a safe bet. Or it's funny, I was at home and I was telling a girl this just last week actually. And we were just sort of there chilling out, and I was telling her about this. Somehow it came up, and then I mentioned the lover part, and I was like, the guy who's a little bit crazy, probably not that stable, that sort of stuff, maybe not the best bet. And she's like, that's you. And I was like, oh, thank you. But I think the ideal would be to get both. I think you can definitely have both, and I think that's it's probably where you want to be, the guy who is emotionally stable, who can look after things, who can take care of business, but is also sexy, also someone that the girl wants to fuck. And that's probably why a lot of cheating is happening that I see all the fucking time. Marry the provider, I got my man, but missing that X factor. Like when I'm masturbating, it's not him I'm thinking about,
or even when he's fucking me, I'm thinking of someone else.
I'm thinking of that douche in the bar or whatever. Again, not all people listen to that and kind of go, man, I don't mean it. Like it's not, it's just a general fucking thing. It's not every girl's like that or whatever, but I don't know where the lover provider principle, I don't know where it comes from. I just remember reading it once, thought it was interesting.
Oh, well, so I was explaining this to my sister. So my old, not my sister who I've got an older one, and she's before she got married and had kids, she was always a massive feminist, going into the bat for the ladies, all this and that, and I'm not a misogynist or anything, but I definitely have a traditional view of a man and a woman.
Sure.
Right? And so I was explaining to her the crazy hot matrix and the rich cute matrix.
That wouldn't have gone down well.
It didn't go down well at all. She absolutely hated it and was like, well, when I met my husband, I was 21 and we were poor uni students and whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but he was studying an MBA. Like, you knew that it's not that he was rich at the time, but you did know that probably he would have a good job later.
We've got that.
And she's like, no, but everything that I said was like, she's like personalizing it.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's like, but this is how I did it. And then I'm like, yeah, I'm not talking about you.
Yeah.
I'm talking about human beings generally.
Yeah.
Like and people tend to personalize these things when we're talking about concepts like this.
Yeah.
And go, well, no, that's not true because I didn't, and I was poor when I met him.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you might have been,
Yeah.
but you probably thought that he was going to, be a good provider.
Yeah.
And he probably was attracted to you sexually. Therefore, he wanted sex from you.
Yeah.
What happened after that? Yeah, it worked out, and that's great. But
It's just a fucking lie. I say to my clients all the time, this is a fucking joke. I had a guy 2 weeks ago, he's a very stern guy, kind of walking around a bar, I was like, dude, you've got to stop taking this so seriously. It's a fucking joke. This is all you're in a bar, you're paying some idiot like me to get you approaching random girls that you don't know who will either love you or hate you, and we're just going to do that for hours. Like, it's a joke. It's all a fucking joke. So if you can take it lightheartedly. I was actually talking to a girl today. A girl contacted me and asked me if I do coaching for women, and I don't typically. And it's we were just chatting over text. We were kind of going back and forth. And I said that, and I basically said, I get the impression just from your messages so far that you're rushing this so much. Like, she's basically saying, why did this fuck up? And I was like,
she wanted to know why it didn't work out.
Yeah, and it's like, dude, you've sent me 4 messages, and I can tell already that you're so rushed to get this to happen now that you're only going to attract nutter fucking guys, because I think normal, healthy people chill, relax, just they're not so desperate to get this to happen right now.
Yeah.
Actually, also on that note, I wanted to mention the potential thing that you mentioned before. The guy studying for the NBA. Monkeys do that as well. So you get a female, like monkeys are very structured. You've got the alpha ape, alpha monkey, whatever, and if he catches another man fucking, the motherfucker's dead.
Yep.
But what females will do, at least from what I've seen, is they'll spot up and coming alpha men, and they'll actually run off and have affairs with them because they're kind of creating that, this motherfucker's going to overtake this clan probably in the next couple of years, and if I start fucking him now, I'm in.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Yeah.
That is crazy, isn't it? But it is. We're coming back to this, and I'm absolutely fascinated by this area, and I want you to tell me a couple of good books to read if you can as well, on the evolutionary psychology between dating and relationships.
Yeah.
So you have the guys I'm going to generalize here and hate me if you want, but guys just want sex, women just want money, and that's the principle that really pissed my sister off.
Just imagining faces now.
Yeah, people are like, oh, Sam, you misogynistic pig. Yeah, clearly that's not always the case, but how often do you see a really good-looking young male model with a old as fuck rich woman? It's more the other way around.
Other way around, yeah.
But I'm going to go ahead and suspect that this came from evolutionary psychology, where we were half monkey people, and the guys had to hunt and gather while the women looked after the house and weaved shit and raised babies.
Yeah, sure.
So
it's just such a huge difference in investment as well, because a man, we can basically run out, fuck anything, and essentially in some degree that's our work kind of done. There's no real other risk there. But a woman, just 9 months in labor, 9 months, pregnant, and then also our brains are still wired for 10, 20,000 years ago, back when there was a fair chance that you're dead at pregnancy. There's a fair chance of death at pregnancy. So the investment difference is huge. Men, we could, hypothetically speaking, I could run around, fuck everyone in this office right now, and that's sweet. I know at least 1 or 2 of the kids of everyone in this office is probably going to make it through. The others, they might cark it, might be miscarriage, whatever. Yeah. God, this sounds horrific. But for a woman, at least going back to evolutionary terms, that's such a huge investment because one, she doesn't want dud sperm because she doesn't want a retarded fucking kid. That's the reality. And I think that's why women are attracted to power.
Yeah.
I would actually say it's probably more power than money. I just think money is a symbol of power. Because, you want, that's our only effort
freedom,
of everlasting
stability, and most importantly, that their offspring are not going to go hungry.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this is what this is coming from. When I'm saying that women want money, that's what I'm saying they want.
Yeah,
they want their children to not be hungry and have a good education and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure.
It's not the money that they want; it's what that comes with it.
Well, yeah, it's like here's a man who, and again, I think that comes back to the potential thing. If a girl looks at a guy and goes, "Oh, he's a leader," and people look up to him. he's like owning this crowd, and he's driven. Well, I think that's why intelligence is sexy. Humor is sexy, because these things can control crowds. These things can get you social influence. So, and that, what's that going to mean? That's going to mean a stable future for her, and a stable future for her offspring, at least in the terms of evolutionary psychology. How much, at least that's the most updated theory that we have on all this stuff. From my admittedly limited reading. But
I have heard as well that I don't know where I heard this from, a mate or somewhere in my readings, that women are attracted to guys who are good with girls because it's a sign that their offspring won't have a problem finding a mate.
Yeah, sure.
Like if you have a baby with a guy who's an absolute card, who dominates with girls, that you're going to have potentially a son that's not going to run into issues because he's not going to be able to find a mate because his dad had no problem. Yeah, sure. And also, this is going to sound dodgy, but also to some degree, underline some degree, sure.
A boyfriend is the perfect accessory for a girl. Does she want to be seen with a dud? Like, what's one of the most important things for a new boyfriend to do with her? Like, meet the friends and get the friends' approval. And like, why do you think fucking footballers and shit are so? I've been in bars with footballers, man. I've seen women just go gaga, and I really do think it's just the we'll call it the accessory factor. I got with this guy, or
do you mean like a status symbol?
Essentially, yeah.
And a hot girl's like that as well. Like if you got a really hot girlfriend, you're walking into the room, it's a status, it's an accessory, it's a status symbol. Like, I got her, look, everyone, look, I got this
It's
trophy.
so true, but I fucking hate it. God, I hate it. Like, I'll have a lot of clients who lovely guys, but they won't be bringing a huge amount to the table by way of appearance or social prowess or anything like that. And they'll be like, I want a hot girl for my friends. It's like, oh, dude, it's the worst reason to get into this, I think.
You're
like,
not going to get one, man.
No, because you're just... For my friends, what the fuck do you care if you? Ironically, the more you care what your friends think of you, the less they'll probably, give a fuck. It's one of those things where if you're like, motherfuckers, follow me or not, I don't care. This is what I'm doing. If you want to come, you're gonna have fun. If not, I don't fucking care. I'm gonna meet people on the way. That's when people will follow you. When you're doing shit for like other people, that's when it's just so obvious. It just screams like, please like me. Please like me. And it's a big thing I have with guys of different culture, particularly sort of, Indian clients, Asian clients, where cultures may be different, where reputation is so big. It's so important,
Family reputation.
Yeah, it's massive. So if a guy's out... I've had guys sign up to get coaching, and then their parents have found out. Like guys in their 20s and their parents have found out, and they've called me, I can't do this, my parents found out. It's like, wait, aren't you fucking 26? Or like, it's happened a couple of times. Man, my heart goes out to them because...
Why? Oh, so there's Indian guys and stuff,
Indian guys. I find Indian and Asian guys especially, just particularly, at least from what I've seen, Chinese, it just seems that what other people think of you is as important as what you think of yourself, which it drives me crazy, I think.
I mean, my view is that, I care what people think about me. But...
Oh, we all do.
To
people
say
that don't are sociopaths.
Is a lie, that I don't. But there's some things that I really couldn't give a fuck what people think. Like, if I talk about drugs on this, if I talk about what I'm doing in my life, or my views on the world, if I gave a fuck, this wouldn't be good to listen to.
Oh, definitely,
I wouldn't be saying truth. I wouldn't be cutting through the bullshit like the razor is supposed to.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I heard a quote recently, and it said something like, Mother Nature does her experimenting on the fringes or something like that. So it's basically like, it's the thought leaders that are cutting at the edge of evolution, because our next evolution won't be maybe physical over the next million years or some shit, but it's going to be
into robotics.
Well, that as well, that's fucking freaky. But it's going to be like a cultural evolution, a thinking evolution. That's going to be our next sort of shift, I think. But I'm certainly not qualified enough to talk about it.
Nobody really is.
No one does. Yeah, I had I put a good video on YouTube. Listeners should go and watch it. It's called "Finding a Balance Between Caring Too Much and Not Giving a Fuck."
Sure.
And it's like a 15-minute rant of, I see it as this spectrum, and on this end of the spectrum, you've got the guy who just, like the guy I just mentioned, the guy who just cares so much about what people think of him that he won't do anything. He's just paralyzed by fear. And then you've got the other guy on this end who's just like, I don't give a fuck. But you know it's kind of overcompensation because you know he does. You know, anytime someone's like, I don't give a fuck what you think of me, like, really? Is that why you're making such a big deal of it, pal?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
It's normal to give a fuck. If you didn't, you fucked in the head. Like, you're a sociopath, or you're completely deluding yourself, or a psychopath. Everyone cares. Dude, I'm very emotionally strong and carefree or whatever, and I care what people think of me.
Of course.
I hope people like my shit. I hope people like this conversation. Of course I do. The only difference is, like, if they don't, it might bother me a tiny smidgen, but my day tomorrow is going to be exactly the same. You know, whereas I think for a lot of guys, you know, they're like, oh, I'll have to keep doing this because my parents will, you know, not approve, you know. So I think my poor mum is still putting together my life. It's just like, you know, people are like, well, what's Chris up to? She's like, I don't bloody know. So
no, you're doing good things. In the video about finding the balance between caring too much and not giving a fuck. I'm interested to hear what you spoke about, because I know guys who are worried if they're not worried about something. You know, there's people that they're always worried. Oh, this assignment's due or whatever, and they're stressing. It's like, well, and they're getting it done, and they're 2 weeks ahead. And I'm sort of like in uni, I was like a last minute guy. Like I think a lot of my mates were. It's like, it's due tomorrow. Okay, we better get started. And
I rocked up drunk to so many French like lessons. Like
I was you know,
waffling drunk. What impact is TV having on society? Alors, je vais commencer. Just like fucking hammered.
I was bent before all of my law exams. So
I was bent through all of high school.
I managed to absolutely kill it. So
the irony of yours though is hilarious. Breaking the law to do a law degree. That's awesome.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to get back to your point, I think it's an identity thing. I think. So if you've got someone who's stressing like, oh, this, I think we get addicted to our identities, and you'll get the stressor, and that motherfucker will make things to stress about because that's what's familiar. Like that's his identity. You'll have people who, again, I was talking about this yesterday with a friend of mine, and we were talking about coaching women and how I started to notice, it's like I could give all the advice to some girls. Some guys are like this as well, but it's the girls that made me realize. And it's just like, I personally think you don't want to change. On some level, you don't want to change. Like, you have identified so much with this victim that on some level it gives you something that you want. You know, on some level you get to complain.
Like a victim mentality.
A victim mentality.
Yeah,
I think we get addicted to identities. That's one thing I battle with all the time, because everywhere I go, I'm this dating guy, but that's not me. You know, really. So
that's the tiniest slice of the large pie.
Yeah. So we all get addicted to these mentalities. Oh, that's why it started yesterday. A good friend of mine was asking me, he just couldn't get over his shyness. And I said, have you ever asked yourself what your shyness is giving you? Like, maybe, because I've known this guy for years, and I was saying, maybe you've identified with that shyness on some level. You don't want to change it because it gives you something. Like it's
lets you sit back and observe. Or...
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we get addicted to what's familiar, not what's, you know, we get what's familiar, not what's best for us. So we can, I think it's important to look at our patterns. I think that's why people end up in like abusive relationships and shit as well. It's just familiar. And you identify with certain things.
But who you are is so changeable and malleable. It's not like, I had a girlfriend a while ago, and she'd just be like, oh, you know, I'm like, oh, you coming to this Meredith Music Festival? Do you know that one? Yep. It's pretty fun. Yeah. And was going to bring her along, and she's just like, no, I don't do that. I'm not cool. Like, I don't do those things. Yeah. Like, okay, so, you know, have a fun life. Like, that's it. She's saying, this is who I am. I don't do those things. Yeah. And I won't do those things. Yeah. It's not me.
Do you know what I have an issue with in that regard a lot? Clothes. So I'm definitely not Mr. fucking fashion. I know that. But if a guy rocks up and he wants to do sessions with me, he's got to be dressed okay. He's got to be dressed decently. Yeah. You know, and if I have guys rock up, I've had this happen a few times where I'll take them to Maya, Zara, wherever, just to get some new clothes, and they'll resist. Like, they're just like, no, this is not me. This is not me. This is not me. I'm the guy that wears old, shitty clothes, because that's, they identify.
Yeah, and
that,
if you rock up for your bonghead mates and you don't have a skate shoes on and you're wearing
Exactly.
tight fitted jeans,
Yeah.
they're going to go, who the fuck are you?
Who are you? And then they go to a new venue and they're getting attention all of a sudden because they're dressed well.
Yeah.
They're like, what is this? I've literally done month-long sessions with guys, made them buy new clothes, and they will still rock up to every session dressed in their old clothes.
Yeah.
Just they're so afraid of that change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be. Like when we're talking about that, who you are is malleable. I'll look at myself in uni in the clothes that I wore, or in high school or whatever. I've gone through emo and rock phases when I was in the band, and now I really love wearing more dapper and you look at these fucking shoes, you know what I mean?
Look at those socks, more like it.
Yeah, I've got a lot of shit going.
Oh, well, and they're awesome.
I've got a lot of shit going on, in terms of the clothes that I wear.
Yeah.
But that's who I am now.
Yeah.
It's like we're saying who you are is changeable. As I've sort of embraced it and been like, do you know what I mean? If you wear this sort of shit that I'm wearing when you're 21 and you rock up to smoke bongs with your mates in the garage in Geelong at uni,
Yeah.
they're gonna go. What? But if you're working in the city in a corporate environment, it's like it feels like it gives me like a
Definitely.
an edge. It feels like I put my best self out there when I dress that. It's showing respect for the people around you.
Oh, interesting.
I feel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you're putting your best version of yourself out there that you can. It doesn't mean that you have to go and spend hundreds of dollars. I mean,
No.
these shoes look nice. They were $60 at a vintage shop.
Nice.
Secondhand resold from America. It's not about saying, I bought these for $400 or whatever.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like...
yeah.
Does it look nice? Does it make you feel confident? And does it show respect for the people around you that you're putting the best version of
it's
yourself
interesting.
out there
Yeah.
that you can?
Interesting. I think in what I do, it comes down to just showing that you just kind of get it.
Yeah.
Like if you're in a nice bar in the city, I love dressing. Again, I'm not Mr. Fashion, but I love dressing up. Like I love
You've
skinny
got nice
black wax
jackets,
jeans and blazers.
Yeah.
That's why I love winter, because this is for me now.
Simplicity is great as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Winter.
Winter is awesome because I can chuck on multiple layers, and I hate summer because I'm getting around in fucking shorts and Nikes and shit, and it's just like, ugh.
Yeah, me too. I mean, you can really layer up and
Yeah, big
explore
time.
that.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much to make yourself look a little bit more stylish, I reckon. And
Oh, chuck me in a full suit and Converse. Oh,
awesome.
heaven.
Yeah.
Just absolutely love it. That's
or white trainers, roll the bottoms up a bit, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like it just has to be. I saw a guy at the races last year, and he had this suit on that was sort of like just looked very unfitted, and it wasn't really a tight fitting suit. I'm not saying real tight, but just like you can see a designer cut suit.
yeah.
And it was just a very stock standard one, and he rolled the bottom of his pants up and had no socks on.
Yeah.
But it just didn't have it right. It has to be a little bit more capri style pants.
Yeah, sure.
And he was just a bit off. Like had he just read a couple of GQ magazines or looked at Damage or whatever, just to figure
Do you know
out.
you know Damage?
I love Damage.
Oh, do you really?
I love.
A friend of mine runs it.
Luke Wiseman.
Luke, yeah.
I'm trying to get him on the podcast.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
dude, I'll send him a message.
Can you help me?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think he's one of the most stylish guys in Australia.
Yeah, definitely.
I pay close attention to things like that. But it's like, it doesn't take much to just follow a couple of websites or whatever and go, oh, okay, yeah, that does look cooler.
Yeah.
And you're not fucking reinventing the wheel. You're not going, oh, I'm the trendsetter. It's just like, it's cool to look nice.
Yeah, for sure.
It feels good to look nice.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take much.
No, and I think it's also like, what suits you? Like going to a half decent store, and this is the thing, like you don't have to dress. It doesn't mean putting on a bunch of shit that you don't like. I think it's just like, I'll go into a store because I have a very, I like sort of skinny wax jeans and Converse and long t-shirts and maybe chuck a blazer on over that. Again, I never spend a huge amount on clothes just because I prefer versatility.
Yeah.
Like I've got friends who are like, see this jacket? It cost me $700. I was like, motherfucker, I could have bought like 2 whole outfits for that. And I'd rather that than the $700 jacket.
So gross when people tell you how much it costs that.
Yeah,
it's not about that. Like, and what you're saying is that you like the simplicity and flexibility of that's your sense of fashion.
Yeah.
Oh,
definitely. I've had guys rock up to sessions going, I wear $2,000 suits. Why am I not meeting girls? Literally, I've had that quite a few times.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, no game doesn't. It just, man. Like even wealth and shit. Women just like fucking just a hot guy who's rich. It's like, to some degree, yeah, but good game is going to shatter that. It's going to smoke that, you know? So if you can get all of them, brilliant, you know? I've had wealthy, very attractive clients. You just get them up to speed and they destroy it. I coached a guy recently that was just out of control. Like every session he was walking away with multiple numbers. And just a lovely guy, successful guy, tall, attractive, dressed really well. Yeah, very cool guy. Like
When you put those things together, it definitely helps. But you're not going to put on the $2,000 Hugo Boss suit, sit back at a bar and wait for the girls.
Here now.
Yeah, now I've done my part.
Yeah.
Come on in, girls.
If anything, it's going to backfire on you.
And you're going to get those head case women who just want you for the money, maybe. And it's like, well, yeah, good luck having a deep connection with her. Like,
yeah. And it's, I don't know. It's odd. But yeah, anyway. But I'm not Mr. Fashion. Like I said, I just wear what... I've got a weird body as well. I've got broad shoulders and no fucking waist. I'm like a 32, sometimes 34 waist and the size of my shoulders. So that's why I have to buy specific clothes. Like I own 2 of this shirt just because I like it so much and it fits me so well that I have to. I'm like, I fucking want 2 of them. I might even have 3, just because.
But the simplicity of a white shirt can never be underestimated because you can throw a blazer on it. You can wear it casually. You know what I mean? Like there's little things like that it doesn't take much knowledge to figure out what sort of simple things work.
And I think once you get a little bit of a taste of it, like you'll get a bit better at it. You know, I dated a girl a long time ago, many years ago, and we'd catch up like a couple of years after we stopped seeing each other, and she'd always joke like, I made you cool. You were that bum in a club dressed in, you know, runners, and I was that guy
from Newcastle.
Well, this was in Newcastle, and this is how long ago it was. And she always said that. It's like, I made you cool. I taught you, like, no, this is how you should wear jackets. This is what fits, you know, rather than just these big floppy kind of things and wearing like Billabong t-shirts out to clubs and shit like that. Again, not that there's anything wrong with that. It's attitude smokes everything.
Oh yeah, like, that's what it's all about. It's not like, because I've seen the guy going in with a Billabong t-shirt absolutely dominating.
And killing it, right? Yeah, me too.
At uni or whatever, because he's just got a cool vibe.
Yeah.
And that sort of energy, people can tell a mile away.
He's owning it. He's just owning, like, this is who I am? Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. But so going back to what we were talking about, like, the former girlfriend that I had saying, this is who I am, I'm not cool and I don't go to these things. It's like, well... have a fun life, because I change who I am every fucking day. Like I'm still, if you're a friend of mine and I was friends with you 10 years ago, you see me today.
Oh yeah.
You're going to say, oh, you haven't changed. Like my personality, like who I am.
Yeah.
And what my ethical values are.
Yeah.
Hasn't really changed.
At the core, no.
I might know a few more things. I might dress a little bit differently or whatever, but really I haven't changed that much.
Yeah.
I'm also open to change though.
Yeah.
I'm also open to changing my lifestyle. You know, maybe I will get into meditating, maybe I will get into boxing or
MMA
or whatever. You know, like I'm open to it. I'm not going to go, this is me, that's it, and I don't do that.
Yeah, what was I talking about this morning? And I was saying, I ironically have a thing where I don't like confrontation. Now, if I'm in a bar and someone is not being a bit of a dick, but they kind of like have a jab at me or something. So I kind of love it sometimes when a girl will be like, really? As if, or something. It's like, on guard. This is where I come, you know. But I've always had this thing where I don't like conflict. So if there's, you know, a fight around me, or if it comes to the point where I've got to address a problem, I find it really hard, which is odd. People would not expect that of me. So I was saying to my friend, like, I need to find more and more situations where I'm going to have to bring up issues with people just because I want to change this about myself. Yeah. Do you know? So I think you should always be looking at like ways that you can, and it's the fucking cliche, get out of your comfort zone. You know, it's just done to death. It's cliche as fuck. So, you know, don't think of it like that.
And on confrontation as well, that's an interesting thing that you mentioned, because I've got a couple of friends, and a few of them don't mind confrontation, and they're open to it. And you know what? If you confront an issue which needs to be addressed, often that issue is resolved quicker.
So much,
and you move on, and it's done. And your relationship with whoever it is or whatever it is that you had to confront, usually is better after
So
that.
much better, yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
like for an example, like I used to live with these two guys, and
I knew I was going to go to. I was about to say housemates as well.
Yeah, it's just a perfect situation.
Yeah.
One of them, used to have his hippie mates over all the time, and they'd leave dishes and shit everywhere. And I like to keep reasonably clean.
Yeah, me too.
And I was like, and my other housemate, he hates confrontation. He avoids it. You know what I mean? That's sort of like his thing. He doesn't like it. And he said to me, "Oh man, this guy's he's leaving his dishes around, whatever." I said, "Oh man, I'll have a word to him. It's alright, And I said, "Listen, man, when you have your hippie mates over, it's all cool or whatever. Just fucking clean your mess up. So when we're in the kitchen in the morning, we can fucking find the dishes and make our way through."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, well, that's a bit rich coming from you, Diamond. Because I might not have been perfect as well." And I said, "Look, I put my hands up. Yeah, I'm not perfect. I was just saying it." And after that, it was fine. We didn't have the issue again, and it was sorted.
Definitely, yeah.
Had I taken the approach of not confronting him and being afraid of that, just would have gone on. And we wouldn't have moved
that shit
forward.
festers, man. And that's when, if you find yourself snapping at people over the most mundane shit, most of the time, I find, at least with myself, if I suppress something or I don't want to address that or I don't want to talk about that, I find myself getting narky over the most mundane shit.
Yeah.
And it's because and I've seen it with housemates in the past, because over the years I've lived with a lot of people. And that's my thing now. It's like, as hard as it is, try and bring things up as quickly as you can, and just in the way that you sort of said, like, "Hey man, sorry." Like, I actually think I did it the other day. Like, one of my housemates, I was like, "Hey man, sorry, could you just do me a favor and like not do this for me?" And then what's funny is he actually explained why he was doing it. I was like, "Oh fuck, that makes total sense." Like, he kept turning off my my laptop cord and stuff like that. So I'd go out to work and I'd come home and I'd plug it back in. And then I'd go to work, I'm like, "Fuck, it's not charged." I was like, "Oh, can you just do me a favor and just not turn it off?" He said, "Oh yeah, that's fine, but just so you know, that's like the number one cause of like house fires. It's like these laptops, these things here."
Yeah.
I was like, "No shit." So now I've actually started doing it myself.
Yeah.
So it's like, not only can things be resolved, things can be improved.
Yeah.
But it's still fucking hard, man.
And people can get defensive as well, and that's what people are afraid of. They're gonna go, "Oh well, fuck you," like you.
Yeah.
Like, well, I might get attacked if I confront them for what I've been doing.
And that's a social thing. We live in I said to someone a couple of days ago, they were asking about society or some shit, as though, I know what the fuck I'm talking about. And I said, I think one theory I have is that people don't go through enough pain in society. Yeah. We get we finish high school, we meet the girl, we get our job, we have kids and all that, and it's all great. But I just think people don't go through enough pain these days. There's no initiation rituals. People aren't, like, look at anyone who's kind of great in an area, and usually they've come from being fucking shit at. Like, most rich people that I know, I've got some friends who are very, very wealthy, will make 4 figures a day. And most of the time, I was actually chatting with one yesterday. This motherfucker makes a lot of money now. And he said, "Isn't it funny that," we're chatting on Facebook, because of course he lives in Thailand now. He's like, "Oh, I'm in Thailand now." And he said something about, "Isn't it funny that, only a couple of years ago, blah, 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 I was here." I was like, "Motherfucker, I remember going out with you and having to buy you shots." And him pulling me aside and going, "Hey, just so you know, like, I want to do rounds with everyone. I want to do shots with everyone, but I can't do the round. Like, I can't buy me, you, and those 2 other people shots, And now the motherfucker's just killing it. And he said to me last night, "I'll probably hit, was it $500,000 in the next year?" And I was just like, man, this is coming from a guy who couldn't buy himself a shot a couple of years ago. So it's usually the broke ass guys who get wealthy. It's usually the guys that sucked socially or sucked with women that end up really good in this. It's like,
because they recognise the need to improve and the need to...
And they have to. They've gone through the pain. And that's the thing. Like, I say this all the time. If you're okay at something, you do tend to stay okay at it, because you've got a livable sort of working understanding of it, so it's enough to kind of get through. You got your job, you can get by socially, all this kind of stuff. But it's the guy who is dreadful at it that either stays dreadful for his whole life. Those guys usually blame someone else, like fucking government or my fucking boss or women are sluts or fucking whatever else they're blaming. But probably half of those guys at some point go, "I have to fix this. I have another friend who's doing pretty well in business. And same thing, man. This motherfucker, we'd go out and this motherfucker couldn't like pay for a coffee. I legitimately remember that a couple of years ago. And one day he had a friend who was dying of cancer, and she said, I'd love to see you basically before I go, or something like that. And he didn't have the money to fly overseas to see her. And he just said that just changed everything. He's like, I've got to get this money sorted. And then a couple of years ago, I remember hanging out with him. He smiled and showed me his phone. It said like 2467 or something. I was like, what's that? And he goes, that's what I made today. I'm like, fuck.
Jesus Christ.
You know, so that's it, man. From pain comes beautiful things if you leverage that pain. So,
well, diamonds are built under pressure.
yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, it's,
Diamonds are just coal. It's the same fucking thing, I think. I'm no geologist, but I'm pretty sure they're the same. Well, it's carbon.
Yeah, it's carbon. Yeah.
They're making diamonds now in factories. You heard about that?
What?
Yeah, they're making diamonds. And
Jesus, that's going to lower the value.
If you jump online and listen to interviews, it's super interesting. Basically, people are saying, "Oh, it's going to wipe out diamonds. No one will care anymore." And there was one, I can't remember where I heard it, but one of the head guys of De Beers or whatever the big fucking diamond company is, he said, "No, it won't, because women are still going to want real diamonds.
Yeah.
They don't want a factory diamond, even though it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
A girl is going to want a real diamond."
Yeah.
And might have been another Joe Rogan podcast where he's interviewing someone, and
he's right though. It's true.
Yeah. So the market will be flooded with diamonds.
What do you think of this thing about engagement rings, that you should spend a fuckload of money on them? Like, I mean, I know that's a random question, but it made it pop up. Like, I've got a friend, and he's been going out with this girl. I'm not going to name either of them.
Okay.
But I think she told me she expects a 30 grand ring, and he probably will be able to afford it.
Sure.
He's killing it. But still, what a good way to waste 30 grand. Like, it's just.
I get it, but I'd be looking at the relationship primarily. I have seen at least a half dozen times, again, not mentioning any names, but over the last decade, I've seen it probably 10 times. I've seen someone celebrating this, oh my God, look at the fucking diamond that I got. And you look at it, it's the size of her fucking head. Yeah. And each time, not each time, because sometimes, they want to be fucking awesome. Dude, if I ever went down the marriage path and I was dating an awesome girl, and I had the money to buy her a fucking 50, I would, just because I know that it would be important to her, and like what's important to her is important to me. But that would be based on a solid fucking relationship, and I've seen too much in the past where, it's like people forget the relationship and they're like, but look at this. And then each time, man, they're fucking divorced in a year or some shit. And it's like, yeah, because you focus so much on your fucking 30 grand ring and your 50 grand fucking wedding, that you forgot what it was about, You forgot the key little thing there, And I remember once I was in Changi Airport. And
Singapore.
Yeah, awesome.
In Swinger Hall.
Yeah. Awesome airport. There's a fucking waterfall in there. And I saw this couple, and they were probably young, man. They were probably early 20s. And you could tell they had their backpack on, and they could tell they were traveling somewhere. I think they were Dutch or German or something. And this girl had this shitty ring. I made a Facebook status about it, but it was years ago. This girl had this shitty fucking ring. And just watching them around the airport, it's like they were, the best of friends. You could tell they were a couple or whatever. And I just remember, like, man, here's a couple. They're probably 22. They've put all their money into traveling. He's probably spent, I don't know, a few hundred maybe to get this shitty little ring. And do you know what I mean? Like, I was just like, that's him. Like, that's awesome. I'd rather travel the world with her for 30 grand than have a fucking... Yeah. You know what I mean? But I understand where the girls are coming from. They're brought up thinking that I'm the princess and I need it. Yeah. Literally the best marketing. They've called it the best marketing thing in history. The diamond thing, the De Beers diamond. Do you know the history of it?
No, tell me.
So diamonds aren't rare.
I'm sure my ancestors, because that's my surname, would have had something to do with it.
Ah, okay. Well, diamonds aren't rare whatsoever. But what happened? I think it was the 1920s or 1930s. This company, I think it's the De Beers company. They basically went, you know what we could do? Let's fuck with society. Let's buy up everything of this one thing, and then let's just start feeding them information to say that this is this holier than thou thing that everyone should have. So what they did is they started putting up billboards kind of going, diamond for life. And they started paying, they would approach like the top actors and the top producers of Hollywood and go, you know, we'll pay you all this money to have just this diamond in the movie for 5 seconds. And they started putting all these little things on TV and all that. And they came up with it. They said that it needs to be 3 months. So this started back in the 20s or 30s. And they still to this day call it the greatest marketing ploy in history, because we're still buying it today. Somewhere, I think it's in New York or somewhere, there are basements filled with diamonds. They're not rare at all. They're just sitting in a fucking vault somewhere.
And they're controlling the price of it.
And they're controlling it because they control the whole market. And they've duped everyone with this marketing ploy. If you look into it, it's fucking crazy.
That is crazy, yeah.
Yeah, so again, greatest marketing ever product ever.
But it was a time where you had a dowry and you go, all right, well, you want to marry my daughter.
Get me some fucking
What are
camels.
you going to give me, motherfucker?
Well, that's still, that's still the case in a lot of the world.
Well, my housemate was like, or one of my housemates was like, oh, wasn't it fucked up that, like, you know, women were treated like possessions and the guy would, get you off your dad for some dowry and some cows or whatever you had.
Yeah.
And I was like, have you ever noticed, like, at a wedding, your dad still hands you away? Like, this isn't done. Like, it might not be that you belong to your dad. You're obviously an independent woman. But you're still being handed from one man to another, like, property.
Yeah.
It's not, she's like, oh, it was so long ago. Isn't it weird? It was, like, not that long ago. And I'm like,
still to
it's
some
still
degree.
happening now.
To some degree, yeah, definitely.
To some degree, for sure.
Yeah. And in a lot of the world, I could be wrong, Middle East, India, Pakistan.
Oh, yeah.
I think they still have dowries, I think.
Totally.
I could be wrong,
Yeah.
but I think they're still rocking the fucking camels and sheep and shit for dowry.
Oh, yeah,
So,
definitely.
And then it's acid in the face if you say no. So it's not, it's...
Yeah, exactly. Well, I've got one of my best mates is a really good mate is Indian. And he was going to have I think he's from quite a proper Indian family, like a rich Indian family. And the deal was, by the age of 30 he wasn't married, they were going to find him a wife.
Of course, yeah.
And it would be with another rich family.
Yeah.
Hopefully not a chick who's fat.
Yeah.
And
I've had clients have that as well.
Yeah.
They rock up and they're like, dude, I've got to make some progress in the workshop, man, because otherwise my parents are waiting on the other side with the families teed up.
Exactly.
So, and that's guys that live here.
And you're coaching these guys.
Yeah, I'm coaching these guys.
Yeah, my mate was living here too. Yeah. And
crazy.
He met a girl at the age of 29 and is engaged.
Made it by a year.
Yeah, mate, and she's so cool, man. Like, she's an American chick. She's so typically American, but she's so cool.
Okay, nice.
So you coach guys like that, and there's it's
like,
funny.
Dude, I gotta get me some girls, man, because my mum is waiting on the other side of this workshop with her families like in a row.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there is pressure on that, and I even feel like maybe the clock's ticking for them like it is for women with their biological clock.
Well, again, I think it's reputation as well.
Yeah.
Because loose ends in a lot of these cultures. What's wrong with your son? Especially what's wrong with your daughter?
Yeah.
If she's I know a lot of my female Greek, Italians. They even get that. Yeah. You're 29, love. You better make this happen.
Yeah.
If a girl looks after herself, her clock is she's fine.
Yeah.
She I get that all the time. Chris, it's so different for girls. I understand it's to some degree different for girls.
Yeah.
But again, a woman rushing to make it happen is going to end horribly.
No, it's bad. And I've gone on plenty of dates with girls in their early 30s, late 20s, and there's definitely a noticeable amount of girls who are a little bit crazy about that.
Unless they've just come out of a long-term relationship.
Oh,
then
really?
it's just, if you meet a girl who's
then she's
32
like, I'm happy to get out there again. And
if she got married at 20, it wasn't the right guy, and she battled it out for 10 years, and now she's 31, 32, they're usually pretty fun.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
And also, like, you can be completely honest with them as well.
Yeah.
Huge difference between a 21-year-old and a 31-year-old.
Yeah.
And just in your ability, actually, not always, I know some 21-year-olds that are fucking on it. But, if they've come out of that long relationship, it's almost like I always say that people feel that other people were doing way cooler stuff than they were in their like late teens, early 20s.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks it. So you get someone who's, got married at 19 or 20 or whatever, and now they're, early 30s. They'll just be like, it's my time. I didn't do all the things I should have done in my 20s, and it's like, you do realize that most of us were probably just sitting in our rooms not doing shit, right? Like, that's what most people, we just think that everyone was doing something cooler.
Yeah, exactly.
No one really was.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's this perception like, oh, everyone was fucking and drinking and doing drugs and partying and at 21, and now I have to make up for lost time.
Yeah.
So,
I've got a mate whose younger brother was going out with a girl since the age of 16, and at about the age of 26, and they were seriously dating from the age of 16. I mean, not serious like living together, but dating.
Yeah.
And they broke up at the age of 26 because they were both like, well, you know, I love you, we love each other, and we're happy.
Yeah.
But if I marry you and I've never slept with any other girl, you've never slept with any other guy, we're always going to wonder what if.
Yeah, sure.
And if they end up together, which they may well, then good. But if they don't, like, then fine as well. But and I was chatting to this friend's mum, and she was like, look, you know, I was single once, my husband was single, we met a lot of people, and, you know, basically she was saying that we dated a lot of other people and had a lot of different experiences with them. Yeah. And I couldn't imagine not doing that. Yeah, well, I think that they needed to break up.
I think so as well.
Yeah.
And if they come back together, they will come back together stronger.
Yeah.
They won't have, again, I'm generalizing, but they won't have the, you know, grass may be greener thing. Because the reality is, and this is coming from someone who's done a shit ton of like open relationships, open dating, all that sort of stuff. So often you do think grass is greener. Like, so many times, especially with the last girl I was saying, like, I'd wake up in, you know, some random's house, some random fucking bedroom or something, and you'd kind of wake up and just going, oh God, I so want to be next to her right now.
Yeah.
It's funny, you'll be out in a bar and go, oh, hello, who's this kind of exciting new thing? And then you go home and I think with cheating, I think that's what happens a lot. People, it becomes this fantasy in their head. And that's when I think a lot of the drama starts to happen, because they think that it's something that it's not. And, you know, I don't want to fuck with like the idea of marriage or whatever, but I think in a lot of these situations, if people could in some way go explore that and, you know, fuck the person that they're flirting with in the office, rather than letting it build up into this fantasy over 5 years where they do fuck up their marriage, realistically, 90% of the time, they're going to go do it and then just go, that was horrible. God, I'm so lucky to have what I have.
Jeez,
oh
I miss my wife.
So I miss my wife, And that's, been there many times myself.
That's a funny thing you say as well. The comedian Jim Jeffries was being interviewed a while ago. Yeah. And he was talking about how his dad goes to a prostitute every Wednesday. And his mum's like this, you know, 150 kilo woman who's like lives in Sydney, and, you know, men need sex, and his wife's not giving it to him, and so he goes off to the prostitute. And you know what? He's not going to start a relationship with her. Yeah. He's not going to go off and try and date her. He's not going to get caught with text messages on his phone. He's going to do it, have a fuck, and then be happy and come home to
probably not get STDs either, because studies have shown that people in the sex industry have lower rates of STDs than the general public.
Well, they're very careful. They tarp up, they change them, and whatever. So I hear.
Yeah. Unless you're in King's Cross or something. So I've heard from the stories.
Yeah, right. But another thing that I heard was the author of the book, I forgot what his name is, Sex at Dawn.
Oh, yeah. I don't know
Tim
his name.
Somebody, maybe?
Tim, I was thinking Troy. I don't know. T something, yeah.
Anyway, he was talking about when a man has sex with a woman that he's never fucked before, he gets a massive testosterone hit. It's huge. Yeah. So that feeling the next day, you know, people are like, oh, you got a spring in your step today. Yeah. Like, after you root a girl that you've never had sex with before, the world is a beautiful place. And I've got many friends, and they'll call me up and they're like, oh, guess what? Went out on a date last night. I'm like, yeah, awesome, man. Yeah. And they are high. It is a high, and that high is a testosterone hit, which comes from fucking
testosterone, oxytocin, everything.
Right, and it's different to when you just have sex with your wife or girlfriend who you've had sex with many times before. And there's something programmed in us to make us feel good that we're spreading the seed.
It's called the Coolidge effect. Have you heard of that?
No.
Coolidge effect? Yeah, it's basically, it was named after, I believe, an American president. So, you know, and this is how there's a whole thing around this now, but that's how it started. This guy was president. I believe they were looking in a farm, and I think the farmer said to the wife, you know, you see my rooster here, you know, he'll have sex 10 times a day or something like that. And apparently she jokingly said, oh, could you tell Mr. Coolidge this? And so the farmer did. And then I think it was the president, I'm not sure, But he then said, "What, with the same hen?" And the farmer goes, "No, with a different hen every time." And he was like, "Well, can you please go and tell that to Mrs. Coolidge?" You know, and that's how it started, the Coolidge effect. So it's this idea that at least mammals, have this drive to, you know, it's, you know, you dump a rat in like a bunch of, you know, with 5 female rats, it will fuck them all, and then it'll just be kind of like, cool, but it'll be exhausted. But then if you drop another rat in, it will like spring to life and go. And it's this idea that men have that in us. And I'm not, you know, this for anyone listening that's fucking hard ass or whatever, I'm not saying that that's the way we should be out fucking everything. I'm just saying, like, if we understand these processes a lot more, I think we're going to have better relationships. Actually, I read a book once, I think it was called Why Men Act Like Sperm and Why Women Act Like Eggs. I think that was the name. I read it years ago. But it was actually written by a married couple, and they study evolutionary psychology and biology. And they wrote it basically saying, look, we're not advocating cheating in this book. We're just writing this so that you understand what's going on in you and your partner, so that you can have a better relationship, rather than going, oh, I want to fuck Jenny in the office, so I mustn't love my wife. No, this is what's going on. It doesn't mean that you don't love your wife. This is what's going on. Or if you're, you know, your wife gets wet over some guy on TV or something like that, like, this is what's going on. It doesn't mean, it's no reflection on you.
Yeah, it's not an emotional cheating or whatever.
Yeah.
We're animals, and this is why and how we feel like that.
Yeah.
So this guy from who wrote Sex at Dawn was saying, in relation to was it the Coolidge effect?
Yep.
That when a guy has sex with a girl he's never fucked before, he gets this high the next day. And that's why these guys have what they call the midlife crisis, where they go off, they fuck the secretary at work, and they go, whoa, and they get this high that they haven't had in 20 years, and they fuck it up and go and do it again and again and again, chasing that high that they got the first time, which they're never going to get, which was just a massive testosterone hit. And it's not, we just need to understand that. And it's not like, you know, you're going to then have a lot of relationship problems after that if you don't, and why this is happening.
And that's going to come from the deception, I think. More than the act itself. Like, sex is just, at least for men, sex is just sex, and definitely for some women as well.
Yeah.
But where you get deception coming in, and where you get, you know, a man suddenly thinking, oh, am I over this marriage? Maybe this isn't for me, and she can't find out about this, and blah, blah, blah. And then you get a woman going, oh my God, you fucked someone else. What is it that she provided you that I can't? And then you just get all this shit, rather than kind of just going, this, you know, again, not condoning this at all. I'm just sort of saying, if we understand it better, we'll understand our, you know, relationships a bit better.
And they'll probably work better. Like Jim Jeffries is saying that his mum and dad are totally happy, and like, she just lets him, and it's fine, because well, otherwise they'll end up divorced. She might be lonely, and you know, he still loves his wife. It's just that
definitely
she can't provide him sex, and he needs it. So
I met him when he was here last as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one of the best moments of my life. My favourite comedian. Him and Bill Burr, definitely.
Bill Burr's really good too. Yeah.
So
awesome.
Yeah, I saw Jim Jeffries.
How did you meet him? Did you show?
He played in Melbourne at the Palais, and I waited.
His tickets were really expensive, weren't they?
They were, but I actually, literally, I've never done this before in my life, but I got the best. I got like A1, the best seat in the house, and there's 3,000 seats in there. And what's funny is, like, I was sitting there, and he kept looking at me really weird, and I'm like playing on my phone. I was trying to sneak a photo, because I know you're not allowed to take photos. And he kept looking at me very odd, and he kept making jokes about a reviewer. The whole thing, he's like, fucking reviewers, all this. And he just got more and more drunk, and he's like, and then I met him afterwards. So, you know, he was coming out, and I just wanted to meet him. And I said, what did I say? I was like, oh, hey man, can I get a photo with you? And he's like, wait, aren't you a reviewer? And I was like, no. Did you think I was a reviewer the whole show? He's like, dude, you're sitting there. He was like, one, you kept looking at your phone, and I know you weren't with the guy that was next to you, because what happened was I was going with someone, and then I think we were a bit icy or something. So I was like, oh, fuck it, I'm just going to sell the ticket for like 3 times the amount on eBay. So some, like, you know, little Asian guy bought it. So the two of us, and we didn't talk. So he's like, you weren't with the person next to you. And yeah, so it was interesting. So he thought I was a reviewer the whole time.
It's funny that he's really not that big here, like a Dave Hughes or whoever. Yeah. But he's fucking massive overseas.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't think it's sort of the stuff that he talks about is not TV friendly.
No,
like,
not at all.
He's talking about fucking and coming, drugs and going to the brothel and like it's
just crude humor,
really crude,
which is what I love.
yeah, me too. Yeah. But it's certainly not for everybody. And definitely not like mainstream Australian TV.
Yeah.
Like,
there were protests, I think, to try and keep him out.
Really?
Keep him out of fucking Australia.
Yeah.
Where he's from.
Yeah.
You know, some idiot started a
peanut.
I think it was a Kickstarter.
What do you think
this
of
man now.
What do you think of them trying to stop Julian Blanc and those RSD guys from coming?
Oh, I don't know. I just tend to stay out of it. It's like that, again. I had people calling me the last thing because there was more shit that went down recently, which I picked as like people were like, should we keep this man out? I'm like, they never intended to come here. They saw what happened with Julian.
Yeah.
This massive international thing, and sure, it was crazy when it happened, but by all accounts, the business fucking went through the roof after that. So now people are catching on. Basically going,
publicity is good publicity.
I create a bit of a stir in Australia. This shit goes worldwide, and it's happened twice in the last couple months. So
I think that if you have a guy like Chris Brown who's got a violent history with women, and it sends a message if you don't let someone like that in. Yeah, sure. But I think guys who are teaching other guys how to meet women, and there might be an element of some of the things, some of the ways that they do it might be questionable, like telling a girl, kneel down, stand up, call me master. Or the shit that he does, it's pretty. I can understand where women will go, that's full on. Yeah, for sure. We've got way worse people doing things who are here right now who you don't have fucking any idea
definitely,
about.
Yeah. Did you see the Bill Burr interview recently where he was saying something about being sick of politics because he goes, the CEO of Nestle thinks that water isn't a human right. So why the fuck are we focusing on like, let's make America better when we've got this cunt over here trying to own the rain? It was he put it much better. It was hilarious.
He was trying to put a patent on water or something like that.
Yeah, he was basically saying like, and you can find this on YouTube. You can find the very interview. And I agree with him. He's like, this guy should be hunted down and shot. And instead we're focusing on all these
minor little things.
And some people say they're not minor or whatever. Cool. But this motherfucker wants to take away water. He wants to own water. Shouldn't we be focusing more on taking this psychopath out than, whoever it might be? I don't care if it's like a pickup guy or a fucking comedian or whoever. Shouldn't we be focusing on the psychopathic CEOs out there that are like, raping the water from Africa and like getting African women addicted to fucking what is it, the baby milk shit and like... Should we be looking at that probably a bit more, maybe?
Corporations pay the bill, so, that's probably...
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're safe because they are... This will be interesting with the whole Trump thing coming in soon because I don't think he'll get in.
No.
But...
I hope not.
He's the only person that... Well, he won't get in because people can't buy him out. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. Like, he's independently financed, probably for the most part. But you look at people like... Hillary, who were taking massive, and that's always been the way.
Should be getting paid by pharmaceutical companies, Goldman Sachs.
Both sides, Goldman Sachs, like everything. So, and here you've got this dude that's fucking a bit loopy, but
he's a fucking peanut.
But it's like, and I think he said that in interviews. He's like, they can't buy me or whatever. So
but he's still, I think the Clive Palmer example is where a guy went in, basically tried to get a seat in Parliament to represent his business. And look how it's worked out. It's fucking...
Don't know too much about it.
Well, he got a few seats in the Australian Parliament.
Yeah.
But, there have been people who have flaked off and it just hasn't worked. So hopefully the same thing happens with Trump.
I can stay out of it.
I know that you have to go to an appointment now.
Yep, I got a session.
But let's just give a quick shout out to your website and your YouTube channel and stuff where people can find
you. Yeah, sure. Website is Manik Workshops, MANIC workshops.com. YouTube, I believe I'm /Melbs Manik or just Chris Manik, MANAK on YouTube. I'm on Instagram, same thing, Chris Manik. Just find me anywhere. I'm always floating around. So
nice, man. Well, it's always good to chat to you. I've enjoyed it immensely as I did last time. I always find it really interesting, and I know that the listeners do as well. So it's much appreciated.
My pleasure.
And we'll talk very, very soon.
Awesome, man. Sweet.
Thank you, Chris Manik, and thank you everybody out there for listening. If you want to give it a review or rating on iTunes, that would be much, much appreciated. Please like, share, subscribe, and all that shit, as I usually say. And this song is Foynes Standalone. Please check him out. He's absolutely killing it, and I hope he kills it more. And this song is sick. Until next time, be safe. One love. Peace.
Taking time to find a way to let the colors run. I just need air to breathe, 'cause I feel the weight but down on me. tear apart the shit, don't disappear. I know it's hard, but we can make it, I swear. Just stay here. We can stand alone. Waiting on the fall to bring it back around. We can stand alone to bring it back around. Falling down, take